Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Let you fish, you get a Superman template at the beginning. Chapter 61. When the two powerhouses of mutant come to an agreement, all is not a problem. All the mutants have received the news that they are going to war with Water Company. Mutant may not be strong, but there are many kinds of weird abilities. When they want to target a person, or a company, it is enough to cause heavy losses to people. In just 1 week, Water Company also suffered huge amounts of losses. Hundreds of people died due to suicide attacks and other attacks, and some even were senior executives of the company. To know, not all mutants have been exposed. There are many hidden mutants who have launched actions against the enemy. In addition, during this period of time, Edgar has already grabbed enough benefits. He followed suit and stopped his actions against Shanasha. He is for profit, but he is not interested in fighting mutant to the death, fighting to the death. What if a mutant came to trouble him? The most important thing is to take the opportunity to erase the traces and throw the pot out. It's just that he didn't think of it. There was one man in the Water Company who didn't want to stop. This man is none other than Homelander. He gained enough admiration and satisfaction in Ganes's actions, so how could he stop so easily? After returning from Nasha, he directly killed Edgar's office. I need an explanation. Why should I retreat? Why should we stop action? Homelander's face was expressionless, his eyes were very gloomy, and he looked as if he was about to kill someone. His appearance seems to be born with a magical power that makes people feel that this person is a bad person just by looking at him. Edgar was not at all afraid. If there is one person in the entire Water Company who is not afraid of Homelander at all, it is undoubtedly Edgar. As the behind-the-scenes man who personally raised and even watched Homelander grow up, he has no awe of Homelander's strength. Not at all kind to Homelander. The company wants you to come back, of course there is a reason for the company. Edgar said mercilessly. What reason? I need an explanation. Homelander looked at Edgar angrily. We discovered something unusual about Mutant. He has recently concentrated his efforts on attacking the company, and the company has suffered a lot. This is a situation that I and most shareholders do not want to see. Edgar said with a blank face. Shareholder? It's those fat-headed guys. Why should they? They're just a bunch of ants. I can kill them easily. If it wasn't for you, I would have wiped out that country by now. Homelander yelled angrily. You'd better show me some respect. You don't have this kind of strength. The leader of the mutants, Magneto, still has a strong force zone. Even if you deal with him, it's not that simple. Companies need total planning. Edgar pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said, I do not believe. In this world, no one is more powerful than me. What Magneto? It's just an old thing. If he appears in front of me, I can easily kill him. The Motherland said with disdain. The reason why Homelander is so arrogant is entirely because of his strength. Although he is only a low-profile version of Superman because the upper limit of Superman is too high, Homelander's strength in the Marvel world cannot be underestimated. From birth to now, he has never been injured, nor has he ever felt any threat. An attack that is fatal to ordinary people, or even superhumans, is not as good as a mosquito bite to him. This is also the source of his arrogance. For Magneto, who is already very old, he looks down on him very much. Edgar looked up at him, and said indifferently, Ignorance. Your ignorance and arrogance will kill you sooner or later. Get down now. If the company wants you to take action, it will definitely notify you in advance. Edgar glanced at Homelander, bowed his head and continued working. Homelander looked at Edgar angrily, and then met his expressionless face. Homelander was furious, but eventually lost. Edgar's desk was shattered with a slap, he turned and walked out. Hey, superhero, a giant baby. Edgar wiped his glasses, mocking ruthlessly. But he didn't know that Homelander, who walked out of the office, moved his ears and listened to his mocking words in his ears. This is also one of Homelander's super abilities, and any bad things about him behind his back will never escape his ears. Venting yes, he punched a punch and punched a hole in the wall in front of him. Old stuff. If it's not because you're still useful. Homelander gritted his teeth and said something. Don't let me go, I just want to go. I want to see if the so-called Magneto is so powerful. It's just an old thing that's dying. Sooner or later, I will kill all of you old things. Homelander vented inwardly. Turning his head, his sunny smile appeared on his face again. With a flick of his cloak, Homelander came to the intelligence department of Voight Company as if no one else was there. The head of the intelligence department is a strong black man who looks rather resolute. Seeing Homelander approaching, he had a smile on his face. "Homelander, what are you doing here? Is there anything you want to know?" "I want information about Magneto." Homelander's words were concise and to the point, and he didn't mean to hide his intentions back then. "This is a high-level confidential company, I need approval." "Feel sorry." The intelligence chief spoke. Homelander wasn't used to him at all. "I said, I want information on Magneto. I don't want to repeat it a second time." Homelander just walked up to the intelligence chief with a blank face, staring at him. The intelligence chief swallowed. Just as he was about to speak, a red light lit up in Homelander's eyes. "I'll help you find it right away. I think that with your authority, you can check these materials." When the intelligence director said these words, he suddenly felt relieved, and the movements of his hands became quicker. "Live, don't shudder." Hearing this, Homelander's frightening expression disappeared immediately, and a bright smile appeared on his face. "That's right, we are all one company, and we all work for the company. Should no one else know about this?" Homelander patted the intelligence director's shoulder enthusiastically. The 2-meter-tall black man felt a little weak in his legs, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Don't worry. Absolutely no third person will know." As he spoke, he handed the tablet to Homelander. Homelander nodded in satisfaction, turned and left with the tablet in hand. When he left, the intelligence director survived the catastrophe and sat down on the office chair. Now he finally understands why those who work with Homelander are so afraid of Homelander. This guy is moody, and he really has the strength to kill you casually. Everyone should be terrified. The other side, Homelander walked out with the tablet in hand. "Go outside and take off directly with the flatbed. While flying, look at the content above. Inside are videos and photos of some Magneto shots. It is indeed a miraculous ability. But Magneto, huh?" With a disdainful smile on Homelander's face, he stretched out his hand and threw the tablet away. His eyes flashed red and turned into ashes. For ordinary people, Magneto is indeed powerful, but for him, it is nothing more than that. Only in the strongest period can he move the Golden Gate Bridge, and he can do it too. "Old guy, it's time for you to see my strength." Homelander was very disdainful of Edgar's closeness. The whole person flew into the sky like a shooting star. It didn't take long for Homelander to arrive at Nasha. According to the information he got, he quickly found a stronghold where Magneto might be. He didn't have any hesitation, his eyes radiated red light, and he started to attack the bottom without any scruples. During Satsuna, the ground became a sea of flames. Many mutants died in the attack before they could react. Homelander listened to the wailing in his ear, without any expression on his face. "Not only that, but I feel a little refreshed in my heart." The light emitted from the eyes became stronger. It is not without reason that Homelander can be regarded as the core by Walter Corporation. His ability is very powerful and can be perfectly controlled by him. Even under extreme anger, his ability will not go berserk. Much stronger than any mutant. Homelander shot with all his strength, it really turned into a fort to vent firepower, and everything on the ground was destroyed by him. People are often turned into a torch by him at a glance, burning alive to death. Many mutants wanted to attack Homelander when they saw Homelander, but they were not his opponents at all. This is the so-called mutant, just a group of ants. No one can stop me. Homelander was very disdainful of this. The sky was filled with his insolent laughter, and the red light illuminated the night sky. He is flying in the sky. The red laser light seems to have no limit at all, and his power seems to be endless. The whole city is in flames. "You madman." At this moment, an old voice seemed to sound from his mind. Homelander swayed, but quickly stabilized his body again. "Get the hell out of my head." Homelander's expression was ferocious, as if he was fighting against something. Mental ability is weak, perhaps the only weakness of human beings. But his body is too strong. The powerful body also nourishes the ultimate soul. Homelander can perfectly manipulate his own ability without making any mistakes, which shows the strength of his soul. Although he is not as powerful as Professor X, he can still resist the invasion. Get out of here, Homelander roared. Charles's will was directly driven out of his mind. Charles's psychic disturbance. Power is completely useless. This is also an embarrassment for Charles. In the face of beings weaker than him, he is a god. But in the face of the existence of ability that can slightly resist him, he appears very powerless and useless. Once Homelander was able to resist his spiritual ability, the professor had no choice but to worry on the ground. At this time, Magneto stood up. He floated from afar. Behind him, there is a whole 1,000 meters of metal. Countless metals spread, forming a metal curtain behind him, directly covering the world. Homelander, you have to pay for everything you have done. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, they are extremely jealous. Magneto hates Homelander so much. Under his control, the metal gathered into a torrent and shot at Homelander. The two torrents of black metal exude an astonishing deterrent power like two long dragons. Old stuff. Homelander gave Magneto a disdainful look. In the world of the former black-robed pickets, Homelander may not be the strongest. But this is the Marvel Universe. The potion researched by Water Company already has their technology bonus, and with the existence of mutant, it has added a fire to Homelander. In a sense, the current Homelander can be considered a mutant. He also has the X gene in his body. It goes without saying how perverted the mutant in the Marvel world is. Except for the Supreme OAA existence, there is no mutant that has not killed. The top few mutants can restart the universe and manipulate time easily, and they are not inferior to Jin Chao. Homelander naturally didn't reach that level. But even with the 1/10,000th strength of the strong, it is not something the current Magneto can deal with. Even though Magneto has mastered the microscopic magnetic force at the molecular level, the strength of ability is far from reaching the upper limit of its energy. Homelander's response to this is simple. 2 red rays of light shot out from the eyes. This time he didn't choose to restrain the energy in the laser light, but let everything out. Those golden metal particles were instantly heated, melted, and then turned into a red-hot metal liquid that fell from the sky. Magneto cannot manipulate the highly heated liquid metal. Homelander charged straight forward. Within milliseconds, they were in front of Magneto. Magneto's complexion changed drastically, and he manipulated the flow of metal to block himself in front of him. But Homelander just reached out and punched. Crunch. The metal was torn open by Homelander like foam. The fist directly pierced through the dense steel plate and hit Magneto's body. Puff. Magneto spat out a mouthful of blood. The whole person lost his strength and fell directly from the sky. Magneto ability is indeed terrifying, but its shortcomings are too great in other aspects. His physical fitness and reaction ability are only a little faster than ordinary people, and he can't react in front of Homelander at all. Homelander pulled his arm out of the metal, a look of disdain on his face. Just you two old things, can you be called the strongest mutant? The mutant race is nothing more than that. It doesn't make any sense for you to exist in this world. It's better to die. Homelander is a ruthless person who never talks nonsense with others. The red light in the eyes flickered, and he was about to kill Magneto immediately. The professor is quick to respond. Directly activate the portal given by Shu Fu and escape immediately. Although Homelander is strong, it has not yet reached the level where it can tear space with its physical body, and its speed is limited, so it is naturally impossible to track it. He glanced at the two people who ran away like bereaved dogs. Homelander glanced at it with disdain, and shot straight up into the sky. As for Magneto and the professor who escaped, the situation is not optimistic. Magneto was hit by Homelander, and the situation is not optimistic. More importantly, the heart is gone. Magneto's pride was also smashed by Homelander's punch, and his power zone was worthless in front of Homelander. In fact, Magneto is also on the tip of his horns, purely competing in strength. There is actually not that big of a gap between the two. The key is restraint. No matter how awesome a magician is, he will be killed by a knife in front of an assassin. Homelander can make countless mistakes, but Magneto can only make one mistake. This is what created the scene where he was defeated so easily. Faced with this situation, he fell into despair. How should they deal with such a powerful Homelander? Under Homelander's blow, the two supreme leaders of the mutants were depressed for a long time. But the two are the leaders of mutant after all, and they have experienced a lot over the years, and they are not surprised by changes. Quickly recovered. They discussed for a long time, but there was really no way. The gap in strength cannot be determined by their hard work. If Chin can wake up, Chin with Phoenix Force can easily defeat Homelander. Only, after absorbing Scott with her own hands, Chin actively closed herself, and she still hasn't woken up yet. And whether she can wake up or not is entirely up to her. Without this transcendent existence, they can only figure out their own way. It's really not possible, we can only ask Shu Fu to take action. Magneto spoke with a sigh. Charles glanced at Magneto. He's just a kid. Not to mention, why did he make a move? He has done enough for our community. We can no longer make any demands on him, neither you nor I are qualified. Professor X frowned slightly, and said seriously. Magneto could only sigh. Not everyone can dedicate everything to the ethnic group like the two of them. Everyone has their own ideas, and he can understand them. At this age, he will no longer kidnap others morally. Is this the end? Magneto racked his brains, and suddenly his eyes lit up. We really can't let this kid go for free. But we can make a deal with him. I remember when Chin left a crystal, didn't he? We can use him to make a deal with Shu Fu. We can't use that power, maybe he can. Magneto spoke suddenly. Back then, he went with Charles to find the violin of his childhood. That day Chin almost destroyed the whole town, and the two of them almost died too. Fortunately for them, Charles took control of Jean and sealed her dark personality. However, Chin had mastered an extremely terrifying power at that time, which was very harmful to herself. So with the help of the two of them, they condensed that power into a golden crystal. It contained terrifying energy. If it is released, it may directly destroy the entire beautiful country, and it is several times more powerful than nuclear weapons. None of them can use this power, but there is no doubt that this thing is very precious. They might make an exchange with Shu Fu. In exchange for Shu Fu one shot. When Charles heard this, he thought about it and felt that this matter was feasible. We just propose a deal, and whether he agrees to it in the end depends on him. Charles spoke. That's natural. I never force anyone. Magneto also spoke. Charles also believed in Magneto's character. The two discussed it, went back to get the things, and found Shu Fu. After talking about the matter, the two looked at Shu Fu expectantly. Shu Fu did not rush to reply to these two people. It wasn't hard for him to take down Homelander. Mainly because I was too lazy to go. As a salted fish, Shu Fu has this time, isn't fishing good. But, now that Charles and the others have paid out the reward, let's see what the price of the reward is. Professor, let me see this first. Shu Fu said in a bit of a dilemma. That's how it is with people. When doing things for others, you must not be too happy. Otherwise, instead of being grateful, many people would develop resentment. Human nature is like this. Shu Fu naturally wouldn't do this kind of thing. Seeing Shu Fu's expression, the professor said gratefully. Shu Fu, thank you. After speaking, he took out a very precious box and handed it to Shu Fu. Shu Fu took it and opened it. Golden light radiated from it, and Shu Fu felt a breath of life brewing in it. He took out the amber-colored crystal of the size of the palm of his hand, and the system immediately gave a message. Phoenix Crystal. The crystal condensed by Phoenix Force, if it can be absorbed, may allow people to be reborn. Good stuff. Shu Fu's eyes lit up. The Phoenix Force is a very special force in the Marvel world, the embodiment of life and psychic energy. Even if this is only a small amount of Phoenix Force, it still has endless power. This energy level is too high. Such a small piece of crystal can actually make people reborn once. Very precious. With his current strength, it is not difficult to absorb these energies. This made Shu Fu a little embarrassed. It seemed that he took advantage of this deal. Shu Fu thought about it and soon came up with an idea. Since he is too lazy to shoot, why not strengthen these two mutants? Wouldn't it be nice to let them avenge themselves? He just had something in his hands that would work. That's super water. After using this thing a few times, there is only one purification function left, which is really a bit tasteless to him. Moreover, this thing is a renewable resource, which can be sold by the caddy. It was shameless of him to exchange this Phoenix crystal. Homelander only has that little strength, and after being strengthened, these two should be able to deal with it. In this way, he can still continue to fish, and Magneto and the professor can take revenge themselves, and they also get strengthening. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Shu Fu felt a little proud of himself, thinking that this decision was perfect. So he raised his head and said to the professor, "Professor, I'm not interested in taking action against Homelander." Hearing his words, both of them looked disappointed. Shu Fu smiled, and then spoke. "But that doesn't mean I don't want to trade. Your own affairs, after all, you still have to do it yourself. I have something in my hand that can enhance your ability. It should be enough to exchange for something. After your ability is enhanced, you should be able to deal with Homelander, right?" Magneto and Charles exchanged glances. "It depends on how much this thing can increase our strength." "Homelander, strong," Magneto said cautiously. Being able to make the leader of the Mutant Brotherhood say the word, "very strong," shows how much psychological shadow Homelander has left on him. Shu Fu is very confident. Super Shenshui is a very powerful item that can develop a person's potential. These 2 elderly people can only use the diluted solution when they are old. Even so, the increased strength should not be underestimated. Shu Fu estimates that after Magneto stimulates its potential, the scope of ability may be expanded to the city level. This level can also be regarded as a human-shaped nuclear weapon. With such a strong player, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with a Homelander, right? You can rest assured. After you feel the effect, you will feel confident. Shu Fu stretched out his hand. A teapot filled with super divine water appeared in his hand. Then poured out about a small cup for the 2 of them. "This is it. Just dilute it with water and take it." Shu Fu gave a brief introduction. Charles and Magneto nodded in unison. Shu Fu nodded, returned to his seat, and started fishing. Charles and Magneto exchanged glances and turned to leave. After returning to their own room, Charles and Magneto followed Shu Fu's instructions and took the super magic water in their hands with water. "Does this thing really work?" Magneto looked at the small glass of liquid in front of him with a puzzled look on his face. "Trust Shu Fu. He won't lie to us." After saying this, Charles swallowed the liquid in his hand without saying a word. The same goes for Magneto, pouring liquid directly into your mouth. Even if the side effects are weakened through the system, the diluted super god water has no effect on Shu Fu at all. But Magneto and Charles are different. One of them is old and frail, and the other is chronically ill. Even the diluted super divine water is very powerful for them, but it is not fatal. But it must be very painful to drink. These 2 people felt as if they had swallowed a mouthful of magma, causing them a lot of pain. Not only that, this heat flow is still spreading around. Soon they were all wrapped up in it. The 2 of them felt as if they had entered a steamer, and their entire bodies were heating up. Their cells constantly transpired to unleash the hidden potential inside their bodies. In fact, every mutant has quite powerful potential. The peak mutant can destroy the entire world. The only thing that restricts their ability strength is their physical strength and soul. And super divine water is to fully act on these 2 aspects. After using the super divine water, the soul will be nourished and the body will be strengthened to a certain extent. Under such circumstances, their abilities have naturally been developed and strengthened a lot. Boom! The surrounding air vibrated at a speed visible to the naked eye, which was Charles's powerful mind ability. Around it, the metal within dozens of kilometers began to vibrate. Magneto's ability has also been enhanced by huge amounts of. Chaoshan is worthy of being a powerful fetish in the Dragon Ball world. Under the effect of this powerful item, the strength of the 2 of them has almost doubled. A good hour passed. The pain caused by the super divine water slowly dissipated. Charles and Magneto looked at each other, eyes full of aftermath. "This thing is really powerful. It's just this feeling, he is too painful." Charles couldn't help shaking his head. Indeed, this kid didn't say anything in advance. Magneto shook his head too. Even though they have experienced a lot, both of them have come from painful years. Still feel huge amounts of pain, lingering fear. But the effect of this thing is really very good. I feel my strength has been enhanced by huge amounts of. Magneto squeezed his hands. He can clearly feel the strengthening of his body, and his ability has been improved by huge amounts of. The current him may be able to control the metal of a city. The strength is even worse than before. Such strength should be enough to deal with Homelander. We can't let him act recklessly like this again. Charles replied, I have a better suggestion. We went straight to attack their bases in Africa. Let them know, knowing that we mutants are not their fault. A cold light flickered in Magneto's eyes. It is naturally impossible for Water Company to ship everything back to the headquarters. They established an outpost in Africa, just on the edge of a small town. But on the land of Africa, the bases they built are already more prosperous than the small cities in most countries. When Magneto said that, Charles also nodded in agreement. Immediately, they made a decision directly, and went to raid the next day. Noon the next day, just the two of them, directly use the portal to open the passage, and head to the frontline base of Water Company. When they come, Homelander is enjoying himself in the base. Looking at the survey on his mobile phone about his personal approval rating, he was simply overjoyed. Homelander, get out. Just when Homelander was feeling happy, a familiar voice sounded in his mind. Two old guys, you were the ones who ran fast before. And now he's still looking for death. Well, just to kill you, the old guy in the province is giving orders to me. Water Company, it's time for a new owner. There was a gloomy look in Homelander's eyes. While thinking, Homelander flew out of the base. You two bereaved dogs, dare to come and look for me. Are you looking for death? Homelander started laughing. Look who's dead. Enemies are extremely jealous when they meet each other. Magneto had no intention of speaking to Homelander at all. The power of terror was directly used. The base of Water Company is about more than 100 square kilometers, with a small part of construction, and most of it is flat land. This is the former military base of the beautiful country, and there are still a lot of military equipment in it. Such a huge base is top-notch on Earth. This military base is similar to a small country. And at this moment, in the entire military base, all metals are decomposing. Even the underground metal ore was extracted by Magneto. These metals began to decompose constantly, and he was directly decomposed into the most basic particles, like a large cloud of smoke, flying towards this side. It can be seen how terrifying Magneto's power has become now. The countless metals transformed into a big hand, and it directly pinched Homelander. Small tricks. Homelander smiled dismissively. There was a red light, okay, in the eyes. Aiming at the big metal hand, it was set in the past. Just at this moment, the air ripples around his body flashed. Charles's incomparably powerful spiritual ability acts on Homelander. Homelander seemed to have been hit in the head with a sledgehammer, and his body shook, the whole person almost fell from the sky. And at this moment Magneto's big hand directly grabbed Homelander. Countless metal spikes spread out from the huge amounts of metal hands, stabbing at Homelander. Crunch, crunch, the piercing voice kept ringing here. Metal spikes constantly want to pierce Homelander's body. But his body is like a diamond, even the metal at the atomic level can't find any traces. It's a monster. A look of surprise flashed in Magneto's eyes. Monster, you mutants are the biggest monsters in the world. And I am the hero of this world. Let me redeem you now. Homelander let out a roar. The skin on his chest suddenly became transparent, and a red heart could be seen beating constantly inside his body. Next moment, a red energy beam shot out directly from his chest. The surrounding metals were all melted by him. The metal hands with a file size of several hundred meters were unable to support them at all, so they were evaporated. The red light even illuminated the sky for half a day. Dazzling light beams straight into the sky. The dark clouds are scattered by this energy beam. Call. Now, have you seen the real power? Go to the death boat. Homelander took a long breath. Using this ability is also a terrifying burden for him. This kind of attack is very effective. If Shu Fu were here, it would be obvious at a glance that this was Homelander's Daddy Soldier Boy's terrifying ability chest cannon. In this world, it became his ability. This blow broke the game directly. Magneto and Charles's complexion changed drastically. The battle between Homelander and Magneto. There was a great commotion. Within a radius of thousands of kilometers, the aftermath of the battle between the two can be felt. Under such circumstances, their whereabouts can no longer be hidden. The exchange of fire between them has also been learned by many international forces. Originally, the situation they created was not small, but the World Security Council blocked the information channel behind the scenes. Most people don't know. Few people cast their eyes on this backward land. But it's different now. The noise from Homelander's fight was too great. A lot of news can no longer be hidden. SHIELD, Kamar Taj, the owner of the Walter Company who lobbied in the World Security Council, all got the news. They all had actions. It's just that their actions still can't affect the few people who are fighting. Relying on his powerful strength, Homelander almost crushed Magneto and the others. It's not that Magneto isn't strong, but Homelander is too comprehensive. Flight, perspective, super thinking, super wisdom, powerful body. Let him have almost endless fault-tolerant capital. Magneto they can't. Even if two people cooperate, it is dangerous, so be careful. Not to mention Homelander's sudden return to his ancestors, using his father's powerful tricks as a soldier boy. The defeat of these two people is definitely a matter of course. It is not the tallest plank that determines how much water the formwork holds, but the shortest plank. Homelander flies high in the sky. Two old guys, die for me. With a fist waved out, the air suddenly rippled. Hundreds of meters around, you can feel the terrifying shockwave. Magneto's face was pale, manipulating countless metals to form a thick metal shield in front of him. Only, boom, the powerful impact caused the metal to vibrate. Before the two could react, Homelander's figure changed. The whole person has appeared behind Magneto, and the red light in the eyes is flickering, trying to penetrate Magneto directly. Seeing that the situation was not good, Charles fully activated his spiritual ability. Homelander felt a pain in the head and couldn't help stopping to confront Charles. Retreat first. We are no match for him. Charles growled. I do not go. Magneto's face was pale, but his eyes were burning with invisible anger. The appearances of those dead mutants flashed before his eyes, and his eyes showed endless anger. The ground shook and the ground heaved. The metal veins hidden hundreds of meters underground, or even thousands of meters below, or raised from the ground by Magneto's terrifying ability. The ground cracked, as if a large rift had appeared out of thin air. Two long dragons appeared from the ground, and countless metals evolved into various sharp weapons, shooting at Homelander. Ding, ding, ding. The metal hit Homelander's body, leaving only the crisp sound of gold and iron intersecting, which did not pose any threat to him at all. The desperation was visible on Magneto's face. The anger and powerlessness in his heart made him feel tight in his chest. The biggest enemy in this life is right in front of him, but he can't do anything about it. His attack can't even break the defense. What despair! Homelander in the sky saw Magneto's expression but did not move, obviously breaking free from Charles's mind control. But he seemed to be enjoying his own spoils, savoring all of this. Next moment, but he did it without any warning. The figure of Homelander suddenly appeared in front of Magneto. With a punch in Magneto's chest collapsed suddenly. Blood flowed unstoppably straight from Magneto's mouth. Old man, remember not to provoke me in the next life. What I don't like the most is a guy like you who relies on the old to sell the old. Homelander said with a very sinister look, and wanted to kill Magneto without any hesitation. How could Charles have watched his old friend die? Forcibly overdrawing his ability, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and the ability acted on Homelander. Forcibly control Homelander's mind, then open the portal and leave with Magneto. After the golden light dissipated, Homelander recovered. His eyes were full of anger. Let them run away again. Homelander was very angry about this, but there was nothing he could do. I can only make a serious note in my heart. Turning his head, he flew directly back to the remaining half of the advance base. Just got back. Edgar, who is far away in the headquarters of Water Company, has already called him. Projection flashes. Edgar's expressionless face appeared on the screen. He stared at the indifferent Homelander through the camera, and his anger couldn't be added. Forcibly suppressing his anger, he spoke. Why did you act without authorization? Do you know how much damage your actions have brought to the company? Do you know how much energy the company has to spend to wipe your ass now? Before Homelander could sit still, Edgar had already given him a severe reprimand. Homelander raised his hands, feeling very angry. In your opinion, this is my fault. I nearly killed this so-called mutant supreme leader. Twice again. If you were of any use at all, this place would have long been the company's territory. Don't blame all your incompetence on me. Homelander stood up abruptly, staring at Edgar. Even through the screen, Edgar could still feel Homelander's anger. But precisely because of this, the anger in Edgar's heart became stronger. He felt that Homelander, the company's most outstanding product, was now a little out of his control. This is something he absolutely cannot bear. Come right back to me. The company will send someone else to take over the operation in Africa. Edgar suppressed the anger in his heart, and said with a blank expression. Impossible. Nobody can fill my place. No one can take away my credit. You can send someone to try it. The threat in Homelander's tone was beyond words. Edgar laughed angrily. You idiot. The strongest among the mutants is not those two guys who have already entered the coffin. Continue to stay in Africa. You only have a dead end. Edgar was relentless. Water Company's previous level was not enough, and it had no access to information related to Shu Fu. These materials and images are strictly blocked by S.H.I.E.L.D. He was also doing things for Jillian wholeheartedly, and only learned some information. With Shu Fu's strength, even Homelander is no match for him. He didn't care much about Homelander. It's just that Homelander is the most successful and valuable property of Water Company, and he doesn't allow Homelander to die yet. Homelander didn't appreciate it at all. Am I dead? There was a strange smile on Homelander's face. I really don't believe that anyone in this world can put me to death. Even those Avengers are vulnerable to me. If it weren't for you being completely useless, I would have become the greatest hero in the world back then. Homelander yelled angrily. Homelander's life is completely a tragedy. He grew up in a laboratory since he was a child, and his lack of family care made his character full of distortions. Enjoying the feeling of being adored by others is the only constraint that keeps him from becoming a monster. Otherwise, he would have turned into a wanton killing lunatic long ago. He naturally didn't believe Edgar's words at all. He stared at Edgar firmly, and said, I will go to prove my worth and prove my strength. Where do you stay for me and watch? You old fellows shouldn't have the final say on the company in the future. Homelander said something with a gloomy expression. Squeeze the face of the projection equipment in front of you to pieces. The female assistant standing next to him was so frightened that she almost knelt on the ground. Homelander turned his head blankly, making the female assistant tremble with fright. At this time, a smile appeared on Homelander's face. When the female assistant saw the smile on his face, instead of returning to normal, she became even more frightened. Go, find me information about mutant. I want to know who the strongest man he mentioned just now is. You understand that? I don't care what method you use, let me find it. Hearing Homelander's words, the female assistant nodded hastily while covering her hands. I'm afraid that Homelander will suddenly hit him like this. Fortunately, although Homelander is moody, he has not lost his mind. As for his female assistant, he had no intention of doing anything. Instead, he stood up, flicked his cloak, and stood outside the huge amounts of French windows. The female assistant walked out of Homelander's office with a sad face, frantically looking for the so-called information. Only, the intelligence department of Water Company is in the hands of Edgar, and a lot of their intelligence is even given to them by the World Security Council. Edgar's feud with Homelander will give him information. The female assistant couldn't stop the tears in her eyes when she thought of the scene where she was shot through with Cyclops. But, as the saying goes, there is no absolute road. When the female assistant fell into despair, a piece of information suddenly came to her by herself. The people inside Water Company have their own filth. Edgar and Homelander are at odds, which has nothing to do with Jillian. Being in a high position, he regards everyone else as a pawn. Water Company is just a relatively important pawn. Under such circumstances, he naturally thinks of his own interests. Homelander's behavior happened to be very good for him. Just imagine, ordinary mutants can research high-level potions, wouldn't the potions developed by these powerful mutants be better? If you really catch a few mutants for Water Company, maybe you can develop a more powerful medicine cut. They don't need to look for any hives, they can achieve immortality by themselves. So for Homelander's actions, Jillian is very appreciative. A piece of information directly bypassed Edgar of Water's Company and was placed in the hands of Homelander's female assistant. The female assistant who survived the catastrophe, who cares how this information came about, confirmed the situation. After confirming the authenticity of the report, he directly handed over the information to Homelander. Always on the beach off the coast of Nasha. Still fishing. I've killed so many mutants that I can't be bothered. These mutants say I'm an executioner. Who is the executioner? It's disgustingly hypocritical. A disdainful smile appeared on Homelander's face. Throwing down the documents in his hand and flicking the cloak, Homelander stood up. Go out from the house, and the whole person flies into the sky. Information about Homelander's departure was quickly passed on to various departments in the world. Water Company is considered a powerful company, but in front of those with a heart, there is nothing to hide, and it is penetrated like a sieve. SHIELD, Hydra, all pay attention to the goal of Homelander. After all, during this period of time, Homelander was too showy. For such dangerous elements, they naturally monitor them all the time. SHIELD even dispatched a high-tech satellite to watch Homelander's movements. Not just SHIELD and Supreme Government. All the strong ones are actually watching Homelander's trail. They are also paying attention to this fanatic who claims to be a hero. Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One is one of them. The strongest magician on the planet, the master of Kamar Taj, and other powerhouses of level Godfather, stared at the magic screen in front of him. There are all kinds of mysterious streamers in the eyes. If you look carefully, you can see that there seems to be a long river of time flowing in it. In her hand, a quaint copper-green magic weapon unfolded, and the pale green light flickered constantly. Ancient One is obviously using the power of Time Gem to spy on time or destiny. It can be seen from her dignified complexion that she is not going smoothly. Fate is shrouded in mist. Why? There was some doubt in Ancient One's eyes. At her level, it's not that easy to make a move. She must consider the impact on the future and the long river of fate. New York battle. She is in New York holy place. Take out Chidori with a wave of your hand and save New York. But she didn't make a move, because once she made a move, it would cause a butterfly effect, which might lead to even greater disasters. The same goes for Homelander's kill this time around. Ancient One just observed silently in the dark without interfering, as if it were an observer. Tung is not the only one who observes silently like this. Far above Asgard, which is far away from the Earth, Odin is watching all this too. The butterfly effect caused by the existence of Shu Fu not only happened on the Earth, but even spread to the distant Asgard. In the original timeline, Asgard at this moment will also be in chaos due to the invasion of the Dark Elves. Frigga died a few days later, and Odin was overwhelmed with grief, and he also lost his strength as he approached the end. Even banished to Earth by Loki. None of these things happened at the moment. Odin is an extremely powerful existence. He doesn't know the reason why this happened, he only knows that his destiny seems to have changed. And the source of all this is the Earth. The presence of this flagpole-sized existence shot his gaze over. Through the powerful magic of the World Tree, Odin has suffocating power. Even half a universe apart, he can still know what's happening on Earth. Homelander, an outlier who suddenly appeared, was naturally noticed by him. It can be said, Homelander made this irresponsible, even capricious decision. Not only did it attract the attention of people on Earth, it even attracted the attention of countless powerful people in the universe. His actions alone have calmed down the previously turbulent world. Everyone is looking forward to a result. Homelander, who is in the middle of the game, doesn't have this kind of awareness. Relying on his powerful ability, he has reached the location marked by the intelligence. The cloak rustled behind him. Homelander just landed in front of Shu Fu with his hands behind his back, floating in midair, looking down at Shu Fu. You are Shu Fu. Homelander looked at the young man at his feet with a calm expression. Shu Fu below is inexplicable. Is this Homelander out of his mind? Menacing, the tone is also very arrogant. It's been a long time since anyone dared to offend him like that. Shu Fu was not angry for the first time, but rather amused. There are still people on Earth who dare to trouble him. He burnt incense without looking for trouble from others. Shu Fu ignored Homelander, lying on the fishing chair and looking at the fishing rod in his hand. Continued to enjoy the sun bath. Homelander, floating in the sky, felt Shu Fu's contempt. My heart suddenly became angry. Homelander has always been a surly character. Because of his own strength, he is the focus of attention wherever he goes, and everyone respects him very much. In this case, Shu Fu's demeanor of ignoring him really made him a little angry. Boy, I'm talking to you. Homelander stared at Shu Fu with a cold look on his face. Ah, Shu Fu was still lying on the fishing chair, holding the fishing rod. For this kind of person, Shu Fu is completely too lazy to talk to him. His contemptuous behavior made Homelander even more angry. He looked ruthless. The red light in the eyes suddenly lit up. Get up. This light with astonishing energy, capable of evaporating out of thin air, shot at Shu Fu. Once a shot is made, it is fatal, leaving no room for it. This is Homelander, no one's life in sight. Homelander's eyes sparkled with excitement, as if he had already seen the scene where Shu Fu was impaled by Cyclops. He just waited until he finished firing the laser light, and looked again, only to find that Shu Fu was still lying there, without any scars on his body, and staring at him with an unfriendly expression. Homelander was a little confused. What happened? His Cyclops failed. Why is this guy not dead? Homelander didn't believe in evil. The red light in his eyes lit up, and a red laser beam shot at Shu Fu. Puff! The red light shot directly on the ground, leaving a molten trace on the ground. The ground was melted into crystals directly under Homelander's terrifying laser light. It can be seen how terrifying the Homelander attack is. However, this powerful attack did not hurt Shu Fu at all. And this time Homelander finally saw Shu Fu's actions clearly. Relying on his astonishing speed, Shu Fu dodged his attack in an instant, so that he was not cut in half by the terrifying laser light. Its speed is even to the point that Homelander can only see clearly when he observes carefully. Sure enough, there are two brushes. Homelander sneered, but didn't say much at all. Fast speed is nothing, the locomotive is also fast, but in his eyes, this is rubbish. Homelander looked at Shu Fu, but Shu Fu also stared at Homelander with displeasure. He fished well. This guy came running to make trouble for him. Is this really want to die? Mainly looking at this ability, coupled with the decoration on his body, Shu Fu must know who this is. Not someone else. It is the famous Crescent Sky, Homelander. Standing on a tall building at night and releasing your infinite passion to the moon, can this be considered a normal person? Shu Fu can also understand doing this kind of thing. But, being able to understand it doesn't mean that Shu Fu doesn't hate this guy. The current Homelander, in his eyes, was like a mosquito, and if he didn't slap him to death with his own hands, it would be hard to vent his anger. Now that this guy came to his door, it happened that the new and old grudges were counted together. Shu Fu didn't attack immediately, instead he packed up his precious fishing gear in a familiar way. Homelander couldn't help being furious when he saw Shu Fu's act of acting like no one else. How dare you? Although Shu Fu did not speak, his actions were self-evident. In front of him, I packed up my things, completely ignoring him. Homelander only felt a surge of anger rushing straight to his head, wishing to kill Shu Fu soon. Obviously he was the one who came here to make trouble, but now he is acting like a victim. It's just that unreasonable. Die to me. Homelander stared, a red light appeared, and shot towards Shu Fu. The red light is like a sharp blade surging with energy, it is bound to kill Shu Fu here. Shu Fu on the ground didn't seem to see the light. While moving, he waved his hand casually. The red laser light was actually scattered by Shu Fu. Homelander's eyes widened suddenly. What did he see? This guy actually scatter energy rays. Is this something humans can do? When Homelander was terrifying, Shu Fu had already packed his things, and only looked up at Homelander at this time. Homelander, right, who sent you to trouble me? Shu Fu put away his things and stood on the ground, looking at Homelander in the sky. Homelander is feeling the pressure. It made him feel a little angry. Facing Shu Fu, he felt a little fear in his heart. This is absolutely unbearable for Homelander. No one can order me. I can do whatever I want. Homelander said frantically. It turned out to be your own idea. It's fine if you don't come to provoke me, and I don't bother to care about you. But if you come to my door, then I can only ask you to die. Shu Fu said calmly. The tone was as if killing Homelander was as easy as crushing an ant. Big words. You're just a mutant, who do you think you are? Homelander smiled dismissively. In front of me, say kill me. Do you know what you're talking about? Homelander laughed wildly. Anyone who has observed animals knows that the more an animal feels threatened, the more aggressive it will be. On the contrary, when they are fully confident, they will be very calm and will not make such a sound at all. Homelander's performance at the moment fully explained what it means to be aggressive and relentless. Shu Fu saw right through Homelander. Although he is tough on the surface, but without this strength, he may be inferior to ordinary people. Shu Fu looked calm, looked at Homelander and said, "So you're strong. I am the strongest. You mutants are just some defective stuff." Homelander said arrogantly. Shu Fu was quite disapproving. Sure enough, the more ignorant people are, the more confident they are. Homelander and mutant are the same, they are both experimental products, and they are even different. Compared to mutant, Homelander is more defective. At least mutant was created by God. And the strongest among the mutants is stronger than a god. For example, Scarlet Witch even has the power to kill the Life Court in seconds. Homelander actually said that mutant is something defective. Young people are really courageous. He didn't even dare to say that. You have a big tone. I just don't know if your strength is as strong as you said. As soon as Shu Fu finished speaking, his body flashed. The next moment, the other person appeared in front of Homelander as if teleported. Then his voice reached Homelander's ears. Shu Fu's speed was faster than the sound, and it didn't even cause any fluctuations. Homelander's pupils contracted violently, and he subconsciously launched an attack. Subconsciously, the fist hit Shu Fu. In terms of Homelander's terrifying power, the body is the most powerful weapon. With one punch, it can explode with a more terrifying power than a missile explosion. It is not a problem to blow up a mountain with the power of a punch. Not to mention hitting an ordinary person with this punch, even an elephant or a dinosaur would be blown up directly. But, when the fist hit Shu Fu's body, there was only a dull sound. Shu Fu didn't even shake his body. In Homelander's eyes, there was an unbelievable color visible to the naked eye. He finally knew now what was going through Magneto's mind when he attacked him. Homelander didn't have time to react. Shu Fu had already grabbed his fist. Homelander tried his best to withdraw his arm, but found that his arm didn't move at all. Shu Fu's hand, as if it were cast iron, remained motionless. Homelander blushed, but he was able to pull his hand away from Shu Fu's. Shu Fu acted like a normal person. Flicking the non-existent dust on his chest with his hands, he said lightly, "You said you have great strength. Are you good at fighting? What's the use of hitting?" Shu Fu let go of his hand and flicked it with his finger. Homelander took a few steps back abruptly. Every step left ripples visible to the naked eye in the air. Boom, boom, boom. Homelander took 3 steps back before stabilizing himself. Look up. On his indestructible skin, there were bruises visible to the naked eye. He has never encountered such a thing since he was a child. What a terrifying power it takes to be able to leave traces on his body. Even the injuries on the body have been repaired quickly, and the bruises have disappeared in the blink of an eye. But Homelander still had a bit of fear in his heart. "You said you were strong. Why didn't I see it?" Shu Fu's eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, and his tongue was fat without waves. Homelander was angry. Red rays of light lit up in his eyes, and under his skin, the red rays of light flowed, and the blood also rushed at an astonishing speed. During the rush of blood, there was even a sound like a river rushing. "I do not believe. Your strength is absolutely impossible to surpass mine." With a roar, Homelander rushed forward. Flight arrived in front of Shu Fu and waved his hand with a straight punch. Shu Fu didn't speak either. Silently waved his hand. The powerful force caused Homelander's fist to stagger directly from his chest, and hit from above the shoulder. Shu Fu took a step forward, directly pushing forward. Homelander flew out into the distance as if hit by a volcano. He flew thousands of meters before he barely stopped by relying on his flight ability. Shu Fu did not pursue, his face remained calm. The technique is terrible. Even if it has power, it's just a beast. If there is an absolute power gap between the two, it's like Superman beating ordinary people. No matter how strong the skills of ordinary people are, it is impossible to break Superman's skin. But now Shu Fu is not only far more powerful than Homelander, but with high-level fighting skills, it is really 2 words to deal with Homelander. Complete abuse. When you show your strength to the weak. Have you ever thought that the same thing will happen to you? Before Shu Fu's voice could be heard, he arrived in front of Homelander first. One punch at this guy. Homelander had no choice but to cross his arms and barely resist. Then Shu Fu's whole body looks like a rocket. The same thing flew out. Homelander waved his hands helplessly. He only felt a little pain in his arms, a little numbness, and even a little loss of consciousness. Homelander flicked his arm angrily. Red energy swam through his body. The feeling in the arm returned quickly. Homelander well inherited his father's soldier boy strength. This terrifying energy made his ability stronger, his body stronger, and his recovery faster. The injury healed in the blink of an eye. You're just relying on a sneak attack. Have the ability to fight head-on with me. Homelander spoke angrily. He didn't believe that he would lose so quickly and so easily. Sneak attack. Shu Fu smiled lightly and did not speak. He didn't just want to kill this time. Still want to punish. He wants to let Homelander know that the strength he is proud of is not worth mentioning. In that case, I will let you try your so-called strength. Shu Fu was floating in midair, and it seemed that he really didn't move. You are so arrogant. Homelander was furious. Homelander has never felt so slighted since he made his voice out. This man actually stood up and let him beat him. It's courting death. Homelander was a little scared before, but now he is not afraid at all. The cloak behind Homelander rustled. The cape, which looks like the beautiful national flag, shines brightly in the sun. He arrived in front of Shu Fu at an astonishing speed. Using his mighty strength, he swung a punch. Above the fist, red energy flows constantly under the skin. In the face of this terrifying force, the air set off a hurricane. As if it was the Hulk thunderbolt used by Hulk, the surrounding air was distorted and changed visible to the naked eye. Before anyone arrived, a gust of hurricane had already arrived in front of Shu Fu. Shu Fu didn't take it seriously. The pale golden light flickered directly, and the breeze dissipated in the invisible. Wait until Homelander's fist reaches Shu Fu's face. He just smiled and stretched out his hand. One finger was already in front of Homelander. Homelander's power is so terrifying that he can smash Dashan's punch, but Shu Fu blocked it with a finger. After blocking Shu Fu's attack so easily, Dao Fu spoke slowly. You don't even have the strength to beat people, and you still call you a superhero. I don't think you are as good as a beggar on the street. After Shu Fu finished speaking, he pushed his finger, and then flicked it forward. Homelander only felt a terrifying force emerge from his fist, and his entire arm was cursed directly. Shet. Homelander took a few steps back abruptly, hugging his arms and taking a deep breath. Perhaps because he thought it would hurt his face, Homelander rubbed his fists, turned his back, and looked at Shu Fu head-on. But anyone can tell that he is fierce and soft-hearted. You must know that this battle is not only concerned by these two people. The one who paid the most attention to this battle was none other than Shu Fu, who was recuperating near Shu Fu and discovered the wrong Magneto and Charles. Seeing how deflated Magneto was, Magneto directly shouted excitedly. It is good. Good job. With tears in Magneto's eyes, he finally saw the hope of Homelander being killed. Shu Fu's strength really won't disappoint. Shu Fu is so strong. Even stronger than before. He has experienced the horrors of Homelander. That's the power to break free from the hardest metal in the world. This kind of power is like a child in front of Shu Fu, without any ability to resist. Magneto was so excited. Except for Magneto, other people who observed this scene had different expressions. Like Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is a trace of fear in the eyes. He also wanted to secretly target Shu Fu before. Fortunately, I didn't do it. This Shu Fu guy is really too strong. Homelander, who is called irresistible by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, seems to have no resistance to ability in the face of Shu Fu. The decision of S.H.I.E.L.D. to make friends with him is indeed very wise. There is not only one person who has the idea of S.H.I.E.L.D. director. Even the two masters of the world, Ancient One and Odin, feel that Shu Fu's power at this moment is already far beyond ordinary people. It is enough to be valued by them as 6. Shu Fu didn't know that there were so many spectators in his fight. Even if he knew, he would just smile. Against Homelander, he doesn't need much whole cards. And he has more means. Homelander was designed according to the template of Superman. This is the original intention of Walter Company to study Compound Number 5 and produce Superman class. Shu Fu plans to use Superman's ability himself. Completely crush him. If you kill someone, you will be punished. He looked at Homelander standing there, as if he didn't dare to come up. A slight smile appeared on the corner of Shu Fu's mouth. This faint smile, in Homelander's eyes, was like a devil. Why, you dare not come up? Didn't you say you were invincible before? It turns out that Homelander from Havoc is just a joker. Shu Fu spoke softly. In Homelander's ears, it was like thunder. If his superhero face is exposed, it is hard for him to imagine whether he can accept that scene. Outwardly they don't care. In fact, Homelander has endured a lot for this. It can be said that this is the most important thing for Homelander besides his life. Shu Fu hit his reverse scale. You must die today. Homelander said these words almost through gritted teeth. The whole person rushed towards Shu Fu like a rocket. He used a classic Superman trick. He obviously planned to hug Shu Fu and push him to the ground directly. Superman often uses this attack. It's just the attack power, which is basically equivalent to nothing. Those who can hold Superman's fist don't care about this blow, and those who can't hold it don't need it at all. Homelander was better off with this move against someone weaker than him. But people who are stronger than him have no effect at all. He only found out when he rushed to Shu Fu's side. The gap between him and Shu Fu's, 540, seems to be not even a little bit. Even with the terrifying force of shock, still nothing works at all. Shu Fu is like an old rock in the sea. No matter how the wind and waves beat, it will remain motionless. Homelander, did you watch too many movies? I really think this trick is useful. Shu Fu didn't say a word, and threw his stomach at Homelander. Elbow strike is a very effective move in fighting, and its power is very huge. Much scarier than fists. Click, Shu Fu elbowed, and the sound of bones breaking directly came from Homelander's body. The ripples visible to the naked eye spread out around the two of them. Shu Fu didn't have any hesitation, and smashed down again. Homelander could no longer maintain this posture, and let go of his arms unconsciously. Shu Fu took a step back and was directly whipped. Homelander hit the ground like a meteorite. Boom. Next to Shu Fu fishing, there is a forest. At this moment, a cloud of smoke rose from the woods. All the trees within a distance of nearly a kilometer fell to the ground, leaving only various debris. On the ground, there is only one big pit left, and with the big pit as the center, countless cracks spread radioactively towards the surroundings. Each crack is a full 1 or 2 meters wide, like a ravine. At this moment, Homelander is lying in the center of this big pit. That expression seemed to be that of Loki, who had been hit on the ground by Hulk countless times. This is the result of Shu Fu's mercy. If his blow hit Homelander's neck, I'm afraid Homelander would either die or be disabled. Homelander probably hasn't really learned how to fight until now. No knowledge of any weakness in the human body. In other words, he is used to the strength of his body, and ordinary people can't pose any threat to him at all. Unfortunately, Shu Fu is no ordinary person. Shu Fu fell from the sky and looked at Homelander quietly. You're just a test subject without wisdom. Only relying on the strength of the body, but don't understand the most profound wisdom of human beings. Shu Fu's eyes were extremely calm. Homelander's eyes were full of grief and disbelief. The red energy was constantly swimming under his body, repairing the injuries on his body. Everything about me is better than you. What are you fighting with me? What are you without the advantage of your so-called strength? Shu Fu opened his mouth constantly. Words are like a sharp weapon aimed at Homelander. Hearing this, Homelander felt his duty, discomfort, disbelief and doubt in his heart. Various emotions mixed in his heart. Seeing his expression, Shu Fu understood. Homelander has already begun to break the defense. This is the scary thing about Joker. He is keenly aware of the weakness of the soul and points directly at people's hearts. But Shu Fu is the most fundamental. It still comes from the power of Superman's body. Only under the support of strength can his words have enough power. Only when the two cooperate with each other can they erupt with a power far beyond ordinary. Under the stimulation of Shu Fu, Homelander lost his mind immediately. The injuries in his body have been repaired. He stretched out his hand and patted it down, and he flew straight up. Hateful. Homelander's face was covered in dust. That gorgeous battle armor also became tattered under Shu Fu's attack. Coupled with Homelander's gloomy expression, it really looks like a ghost. Die to me. Homelander glared. A red laser light was emitted from the eyes, and it shot straight at Shu Fu. Shu Fu's body flickered, and his whole body became unreal. This is not because Shu Fu's body has really become transparent, but because his speed is too fast, forming huge amounts of phantom directly in the air. Homelander's laser attack couldn't keep up with his movements for a while. This feeling makes the motherland even more irritable. This feeling makes Homelander more uncomfortable than defeating him directly. Don't you just hide, Homelander roared angrily. Laser light was emitted from Homelander's eyes, and the ground was directly destroyed in a mess. The ground directly turned into a piece of red-hot lava. This kind of terrifying power doesn't look like a human being at all. Shu Fu was walking in the middle of it. He is obviously fighting, but he looks very elegant and unhurried. As if this is not fighting, but playing. It's not that I just hide. It's because your strength is too weak to pose a threat to me at all. Shu Fu stopped immediately while talking. Homelander was overjoyed. 2 red laser beams shot towards Shu Fu. This is enough energy to melt metal and cut through the most terrifying substances in the world. Not only does it have the high temperature characteristics of energy, but it also has the impact that is like a powerless attack. It can be said, this is a very perfect and powerful attack. The lethality for living things is terrifying. Shu Fu didn't dodge at all. Let this Homelander's attack hit him. There was a cruel expression on Homelander's face. He seemed to have seen the scene of Shu Fu being cut by a terrifying force and begging for mercy under his hands. It wasn't long before he spotted the troops. Shu Fu just stood still, letting the scorching heat ray hit him, as if it had no effect on him. This is impossible. Why didn't you respond at all? Homelander yelled in disbelief. Shu Fu is now just like Da Chao, who was hacked by Steppenwolf's axe back then. A wonderful smile appeared on his face. As soon as he stretched out his hand, the casual clothes on his upper body directly turned into pieces all over the floor, revealing his incomparably strong upper body. It's a pity that Homelander's laser light, which is enough to melt metal and iron, did not pose any threat to him. It's just that the skin is slightly reddened, and it has no effect at all. Why do you ask? Because you are too weak. Shu Fu opened his mouth lightly. I do not believe you die for me. Homelander was very angry. In the next second, he exerted the laser energy in his eyes to the maximum. Homelander has a strong ability to control his own ability. All his energy went into the eyes. The power of that crimson terrifying light doubled in an instant. Under this output power, Homelander felt a little heat in his eye sockets. I don't believe it, you're still alive. Homelander thought to himself. The crimson laser light directly hit Shu Fu's body. However, the laws of the physical world are not transferred by human will. In other words, Homelander is not strong enough to interfere with reality with willpower. The red laser beam directly hit Shu Fu's body without leaving any marks. Instead, the surrounding trees and land suffered. Trees burned and the ground melted, as if the place had opened the gates to hell. Look, your ability is not as strong as you think, is it? Shu Fu pointed to the cooling ground beside him, with a smile on his face. Watching Homelander is a little skeptical about life. If it weren't for the horrible melting marks on the surrounding ground, Homelander even felt that his ability had failed. But since it didn't fail, why is Shu Fu not affected at all? Is his body really that strong? Even he himself would be injured by such a terrifying attack. I can't believe it, I don't know why. He even had great doubts about his decades of life. Could it be that his previous life experiences were all just hallucinations? I think you are doubting life now. I'm here to help you clear up your doubts. Let you know what is the real terrifying power. Shu Fu smiled slightly. Leaning forward, an orange-red light appeared in his eyes. Superman's ability and Homelander's ability, although the performance is the same, they are two completely different abilities. Superman's ability is a thermal energy ray, which emits an extremely hot beam that melts everything, which is the embodiment of the terrifying power of the sun. Homelander's ability is more like a laser beam. This is a high-frequency oscillating energy ray, which increases the focus on cutting performance, and the heat damage caused is only incidental. But, when the temperature of Shu Fu's heat rays is high enough, the gap between the two is actually not that big. When Homelander saw Shu Fu move, he realized. Wrong. The body quickly landed and wanted to dodge. The orange-red human energy rays in Shu Fu's eyes have already gushed out. His rays are indeed gushing. After the ability is strengthened, Shu Fu's thermal energy rays are emitted, like a real magma gushing out. Whether it is power or terrifying ability, it is not comparable to before. Homelander dodges quickly, but Shu Fu's eyes follow him like a shadow. The orange light beam swept directly from the ground. In front of this terrifying energy, the ground cracked directly. The soil melted directly. In the blink of an eye, the soil melted directly into magma, and a gully appeared on the ground instantly. The wood has evaporated directly before burning in the face of this high temperature. The metal has long been turned into a liquid, and it is integrated with the magma. Seeing this scene, Homelander trembled. He can be sure that even with his current physical fitness, he might not die or be disabled after this blow. What is emitted from Shu Fu's eyes is not a light beam at all. It was like the continuous explosion in the center. The integrated high-temperature plasma was hotter than the light. Homelander dared not stop at all. After these few laps, the surrounding area became a sea of magma. Shu Fu floated in midair, like a human cannon, attacking non-stop. That posture is like a cat playing with a mouse, frantically playing with its prey. Those who saw this scene fell silent. Magneto was silent. He can indeed destroy a city, but controlling metal is completely different from Shu Fu's terrifying destructive power. His ability is more like manipulation. No matter how terrifying it is, there are traces to follow. Shu Fu's lethality, however, began to be completely detached, as if it had reached another level. This kind of power seems to be born purely for destruction. Shield's Nick Fury frowned. He wondered if they could subdue Shu Fu if he lost his mind. He finally found out in despair. Even if the Avengers are all desperate, they shield also have nothing to do with Shu Fu. This is a super high-tech humanoid fighting machine. The firepower of one person is probably comparable to the explosion of all nuclear weapons in the world. It is also easy to evaporate a city. This mountain has turned into a sea of lava. This kind of power is really terrifying. And Ancient One, who was using magic to observe, also sighed. Shu Fu's strength also exceeded his expectations. His strength has reached the limit of mortals. One more step up, I am afraid that they will be able to touch them and become truly powerful human gods at this stage. It can even become an existence that protects a civilization. The power of Shu Fu made Ancient One sound, the great Balrog who escaped from hell back then. The surrounding flames can reconnect 10 cities to the sea of lava. In this grade, with such terrifying strength, Ancient One can only sigh. This rising star is really a bit surprising. If anyone in Kamar Taj can have this kind of strength, Ancient One will feel that they are very popular. Unfortunately, this kind of thing can only exist in fantasy. Ancient One is very emotional. Odin, who is far away in the universe beyond the earth, is also full of emotions. He and Ancient One are well-informed characters. With a lifespan of millions of years, he has seen too many outstanding geniuses in this universe. It's just that Shu Fu's degree of genius is still rare in the world. Shu Fu's powerful strength just now is just like that Fire King Sudert, incomparable. Odin looked at Shu Fu, and thought about his own silly son. Immediately felt a little uncomfortable. If Thor was as good as this kid, he wouldn't be such a person. Between them, there is not only a gap in strength, but also a gap in intelligence. The two-level godfathers and other powerhouses were all so emotional. Let alone Earthlings. Shu Fu's behavior is no longer human. It is an existence that completely surpasses human beings. It is not an exaggeration to call him the god of the world. Magneto shared the perspective through the mutant in front of him, looking at Shu Fu's figure floating in the sky. I was glad for a while. Fortunately, Shu Fu is a mutant. Fortunately, Shu Fu is on their side. Otherwise, they really don't know how to face this kind of enemy. This kind of powerful existence is like a god coming to this world. Just looking at it is scary. The god of the world, worthy of the name. In a way, Superman is even scarier than real gods. Even in the Silver Age, its abilities have already surpassed the boundaries that mortals can comprehend. Superman was originally a product of human imagination. By comparison, Homelander is a bit underwhelming. Even in the Marvel world, due to various reasons, his ability has been considerably strengthened, and it is absolutely impossible to be Shu Fu's opponent. It can be seen from the somewhat frightened expression on Homelander's face. Homelander was never really a powerhouse. The strong think about how to overcome difficulties in the face of difficulties, while Homelander thinks about how to escape. Facing such a powerful Shu Fu, Homelander already wanted to quit. There's no need to fight this mutant bastard, Homelander thought to himself. Escaping from Shu Fu's grasp, Homelander stabilized his body, looked at Shu Fu and said, "You mutant bastard, I'm not in good shape today, come back another day." Speaking of which, Homelander soared into the sky and fled in embarrassment. Looking at his posture, I wish I could put another pair of wings on my back. Come when you want, leave when you want, dream. Shu Fu sneered. The body flashes instantly. The next moment he was on top of Homelander. Get down. Shu Fu showed a ruthless face, and directly punched Homelander hard. Homelander flew down at a faster speed than before, and the violent airflow had already blown above the ground before people reached the ground. Shu Fu didn't just let him go that easily. Body flashed. The next moment he reappeared under Homelander. Apart from anything else, just raising your leg as a kick. Homelander was kicked away by Shu Fu again like a rubber ball. Homelander wants to rely on his powerful flight ability to stop, but his energy is simply not enough for the terrifying movement brought by Shu Fu. The whole person flew towards the sky uncontrollably. It's like Shu Fu got a new toy. The figure flickered constantly. It seemed as if a dozen Shu Fu appeared in the sky at the same time. This is his speed is too fast, leaving an afterimage in midair. And Homelander was sadly in the middle, being kicked around by Shu Fu like a ball. Boom, boom, boom. It didn't take long for Homelander to have a bruised nose and face, and bruises all over his body. Homelander's physical fitness is indeed very strong. But Shu Fu's power is also very terrifying. Homelander is definitely a pig's head. Although the original Homelander has a somewhat dark complexion. But he is also considered handsome among humans. But under Shu Fu's heavy blow, now he has completely turned into a pig's head. His face was swollen high, and his eyes became a small slit. He looked like a mess, and he didn't have the arrogant posture just now. Homelander, it doesn't look like you're as strong as you say. At the end of the day, you are just a test product of Water Corporation. You don't know that you are actually created by others. Shu Fu's slightly mocking voice sounded. In Homelander's ears, it was like a lightning strike. In fact, Homelander had doubts about his life experience for a long time. Even though Water Company has covered up in many ways, but with his authority, he is clear about a lot of information. It's just that he doesn't want to believe it. He knows everything, but he just doesn't want to face it. Now Shu Fu's words pierced directly into his heart like a sharp knife. Homelander felt anger rising from the bottom of his heart. The last time this kind of anger appeared was the night when he was tricked by that woman and killed her with his own hands. Now he has that anger again. The anger of the weak can only be seen as ridiculous by the strong. Homelander is not strictly a weakling. He also has the mutant gene in him. As we all know, the mutant race, the more explosive it is, the more powerful it is, like after Scarlet Witch Blacken. Even killed all the Illuminati, and almost killed all the Avengers. She wasn't that scary when she hit Thanos. Even Homelander's potential is nowhere near Scarlet Witch. But it was still very scary when it broke out. Enough. Homelander's face became very distorted. Red energy appeared in his chest, as if a bright lamp was lit inside the chest cavity. Not only that, the red veins, constantly appearing from under the skin, light up the skin. Under such circumstances, the injuries on his body even began to repair. It returned to normal after a while. Shu Fu was flying in the sky, quietly watching Homelander's actions with his arms folded, not intending to stop Homelander at all. Homelander looked up at Shu Fu with hatred in his eyes. I'll make you regret saying that. When Homelander said this, it could be described as gnashing of teeth. Yes, you can try. Shu Fu smiled lightly. His state of mind at the moment, as if Superman met Steppenwolf, is ridiculous. The ignorance in Shu Fu's eyes hurt Homelander even more. Nothing is more painful to a proud man than this ignorance. What? Homelander let out a roar directly. His chest suddenly brightened to the extreme. The next moment, a torrent of red energy spurted out from his chest. This is an unscrupulous, uncontrollable catharsis of energy. The light emitted by the red energy torrent can be seen tens of thousands of kilometers away. The clouds in the sky were pierced by this terrifying light, and then evaporated. The red light pierced the sky like a sharp sword, shooting directly out of outer space. Now, Homelander is like a gigantic laser cannon. He squandered his energy recklessly. But Shu Fu, who was hit by the light, did not respond at all. The ordinary clothes around him have long been directly evaporated, and the black battle suit around him. The torrent of energy that could melt everything hit Shu Sha's body without causing any impact. He was just as usual, floating in the sky. There is still a faint smile on his face. This is impossible, Homelander yelled frantically. He couldn't believe that his attack beyond the limit of his own strength could not break through the defense at all. Homelander gritted his teeth. The energy in the chest increased again. A more frightening torrent of energy sprayed out. The energy of the energy torrent several meters wide has doubled again, and the energy contained in it is even more terrifying. Only, this surge of energy still has no effect on Shu Fu. Shu Fu just stood in the torrent of energy. Patted his chest. Just so hard against the terrifying torrent of energy, he walked towards Homelander step by step. Homelander's eyes widened and everyone was blindfolded. He can only stimulate the energy in his chest with all his strength, squeeze the energy of every cell in his body, and make the energy torrent gushing out of his chest even more terrifying. But this still doesn't have any effect on Shu Fu at all. He just walked forward one step at a time. It seemed that the torrent of energy next to him was like a breeze to him. There was a look of fear in Homelander's eyes. His body trembled a little. There is no momentum, and the energy emanating from the body is slowly disappearing. You are simply a monster, Homelander said in a trembling voice. And Shu Fu has already walked in front of him at this moment. He reached out and grabbed Homelander's neck. Monster. No, I'm not a monster. Those who lose their human form for power are monsters. For example, you. Shu Fu lifted Homelander. At this moment, Homelander no longer had his usual aggressive aura. Instead, it looked like the people he usually killed can only struggle helplessly. Both hands wanted to take Shu Fu's hand away, but there was nothing they could do. I'm Homelander. I can't die, Homelander roared. The whole person turned into a red sun. Disorderly energy erupts too brightly. A second round of scorching red sun seemed to appear in the sky, covering up the sun's rays. Even if it is a giant human city, in the face of this kind of energy eruption, I am afraid that it has not resisted ability in the slightest. But this powerful force has no effect on Shu Fu at all. He doesn't even mess with his hair. Do not, quote, everybody dies. You are no exception. Shu Fu's eyes turned amber, and the powerful spiritual energy and powerful power in his body began to exert force simultaneously. At the level of Homelander, it is already difficult to kill him with general attacks. An injury that would be considered fatal to an ordinary person had no effect on Homelander at all. Suffocation does not affect this Superman class. Shu Fu chose a simpler way. Direct physical transcendence, crushing bones and ashes. A terrifying power burst out from his hands. Homelander's neck couldn't bear this terrifying force at all. It just tilted, and the cervical spine was broken. It's just that under such circumstances, people still haven't died. The physical injury didn't seem to have any effect on him at all. And Shu Fu didn't kill him so easily, it just made him unable to struggle. Throwing Homelander away, Shu Fu took a deep breath. The fist is received by the waist. Then punch it out. Incomparably terrifying power burst out directly from his fist. A violent airflow centered on him and spread out towards the distance. White traces visible to the naked eye appeared in the sky. The mountain peaks in the distance were directly vaporized by this terrifying force. If you look at it from outer space, you can find that Shu Fu's punch directly left a trace of tens of thousands of kilometers on the ground. The clouds in the sky were directly cut open. As his target, Homelander, fell into silence without moving. It's still not as good as Saitama-sensei. Shu Fu shook his head. With a dissatisfied sigh, Shu Fu turned around slowly and left step by step. And Homelander behind him is starting to smash. It's like Homelander snapped his fingers with infinite gems alone by Thanos. The whole person seems to be a sculpture cast in sand. Slowly decompose one by one. Dissipate with the wind. And the bondage has already run to the unknown. How many distant places have gone? The audience who saw this scene fell silent. With Shu Fu's powerful strength, he can no longer be counted as a human being. Those who haven't seen it don't understand how shocking it is. Even Nick Fury, who observed it through satellites, is silent. Having seen Captain Marvel, he thought that nothing in this world could surprise him. Now it seems that his knowledge is still less. Shu Fu's punch directly shattered his dream for so many years. He always felt that through human efforts, the Earth can be protected and all enemies can be defeated. After seeing Shu Fu make a move, the belief he had built up over decades was shaken. Is this really a force humans can resist? Not to mention Shu Fu, seeing Homelander's energy torrent piercing the sky, he felt unstoppable. This is not the power that humans should have at all. Nick Fury, a warrior who has never conceded defeat in his life, is already feeling desperate at this moment. He sat silently in the darkness of his seat for 10 minutes. Nick Fury adjusted his mentality. We're on good terms with him now. Plus he was originally a part of humanity, so it should be fine. But Tony Stark should speed up the process. Nick Fury previously provided resources to Tony Stark and Dr. Banner to carry out their plans. Create the power to defend humanity. It now appears that this support is not enough. They need more information, more knowledge. Even knowledge that does not come from Earth. The Homelander was stopped by Shu Fu and killed. So what if Shu Fu becomes the next Homelander? Nick Fury made a secret decision in his mind. Compared with Nick Fury, those who are secretly bewitching are a little uneasy. Who would have thought that Shu Fu would be so strong? Even using the most powerful nuclear weapon of mankind, it still has no effect on him. What if he finds it? Many people secretly fell into despair. Compared to these guys hiding behind, Ancient One is much calmer. Although Shu Fu is formidable, she is not her opponent yet. Heavenly Father, what is that concept? That is already completely detached from human beings and has become another existence. If Ancient One wanted to, going abroad could even easily destroy the Earth. Like Dormammu, the Earth is nothing but food to him. This is the other existence of level Godfather, a god in the true sense. Shu Fu is not enough to watch now. But, just because the strength is stronger than Shu Fu's, it doesn't mean that Ancient One is not good enough. The strength Shu Fu displayed really shocked her. She is indeed stronger than Shu Fu. But how old is she? Even though she can't compare to something like Odin that has lived for 1,000,000 years, she has lived for hundreds of years. Shu Fu is still a child. Ancient One has gone through countless hardships and learned countless magics to reach this level. Shu Fu is fishing all day long, and often Air Force. What a gap. With Shu Fu's terrifying ability, it's really not certain how far he can reach in the future. This is where Ancient One was shocked. At this age, there is such a terrifying fighting power. It seems that we can get in touch with this young man in the future. The young man's nature is not bad. Ancient One thought to himself. It's not just one person who has this idea with him. Far away in Asgard, Odin, who watched Shu Fu through magic, thought the same. Seeing Shu Fu's tyrannical strength, Odin couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Shu Fu is really no different from when he was young. Invincible, powerful, it can be called a god-level existence. He became the overlord of the universe, led Asgard to fight east and west, and laid down a huge territory. Now he is old and frail, and is about to enter the end of his life. Shu Fu has just started. Odin couldn't help but feel a little old. But, soon he threw this idea out of his head. Shu Fu is so powerful, if he can handle the relationship with Thor well, it may be a big help in the future. Maybe, at any time, Thor will be helped by him. Odin decided to take a good look at Shu Fu in the future, to see if the kid was worth letting Thor associate with him. He can make friends with it at that time. When something really goes wrong with Thor, Shu Fu might be a lifesaver. The lightning in Odin's eyes flickered with incredible wisdom. The great kings of the 9 realms all believed that Shu Fu's future was limitless. Other people's thoughts can be seen. Suddenly Shu Fu became famous all over the world. The ups and downs of the outside world have nothing to do with Shu Fu. With his style, he doesn't care what other people think. The point is, after dealing with Homelander, he has other things to deal with. That's the water company behind Homelander. Homelander was no threat to him, but Vault was different. Maybe these people are planning to use some means behind his back to mess with him. This is the world of Marvel, mad scientists who might actually be up to something. Don't say it's him now. Even if Da Chao in the Golden Age is unscrupulous, there is a possibility of overturning in this world. After all, the upper limit of the Marvel world is OAA, and below that there are legendary gods like the Tribunal of Life. This made Shu Fu fearful. In order to ensure his safety, he had to liquidate these people first. But these things are also troublesome. It's not cost-effective for me to do it myself. And if I make a move, it will definitely cause more trouble. Shu Fu thought in his heart. The upper echelons of the Marvel world are not as rational as his. The big shot of this world, what is in the mind, Shu Fu does not want to guess at all. After all, they have already become high-level members of the World Security Council, and they want to join Hydra and try to rule the world in vain. Can you do such a thing without a serious brain disease? The level of power in the Marvel world is very high, but it also increases the ambitions of politicians in this world. They see all strong men as threats. Nick Fury is a good example. Shu Fu is now not only smart, but also human. This Walt company, being able to shoot against mutants so recklessly, must have a higher level of big shot behind it. If he shot again, he would definitely be able to solve the problem, but there would also be sequelae. What if these people drop nukes here? In the Marvel world, there are lunatics who dare to drop a nuclear bomb on Manhattan. He is not afraid of nuclear bombs now. After the fish pond can be used, I am afraid it cannot be used. And it's just a nuisance. These people really have nothing to do with Shu Fu, but they still have the ability to make you feel uncomfortable. Shu Fu was annoyed by these things the most. Violence is a last resort. Well now, Joker's thinking network will really come in handy. Using it in battle is nothing but reckless use. Playing with people's hearts is what Oda is good at. Shu Fu thought in his heart. Joker is a high IQ talent appointed by DC Comics. But that's not its scariest part. The most frightening thing about it is its terrifying insight into people's hearts, which can easily distort people's hearts. Even Batman has been twisted by Joker's power. Very scary. Now Shu Fu is just using it to wrestle with these behind-the-scenes people. Also let them know what the real horror is. Moreover, he also didn't know who Walter's controller and the people behind him were. Going to investigate again, it's too much trouble. Shu Fu was too lazy to go. Fortunately, he has a way to achieve this goal. Shu Fu went back to the beach and used his own means to inform Magneto. The rest of his methods need to be completed by this mutant. He believes that Magneto must now be eager to swallow the water company alive. Shu Fu just needs to give him some information to let him do this. Shu Fu didn't have to wait long here. Magneto had already pushed Charles here. When they saw Shu Fu, the expressions on their faces were still very strange. It's not like an ordinary person at all, as if watching some rare animal. His eyes were full of surprise and disbelief. "Professor, why are you looking at me like that?" Shu Fu smiled lightly. "Nothing, just a little surprised. At your age, you have achieved this achievement, and you are still here so calmly. It's really not easy." Charles couldn't help shaking his head. When he was young, he couldn't be considered a good person. Wanton reading other people's minds, drinking and picking up girls, and doing a lot of bad things. If it were him when he was young, with Shu Fu's terrifying strength, he would definitely be more Zhang Yang. It's impossible to be as low-key as Shu Fu. Shu Fu has a composure that doesn't match his age. Shu Fu smiled and said flatly, "It's just that I don't like it. I've been doing what I love. To do this kind of thing is not my wish." Of course there is no surprise. Charles nods. Maybe this is the pattern. Magneto was much more uncomfortable compared to Charles's homely conversation. Having been the leader of Mutant for so many years, he really doesn't know what to say to a strong man like Shu Fu. After thinking for a long time, he spoke. "Shu Fu, you have made huge amounts of contributions to the entire mutant group. I agree with Charles that you should be the leader of the mutants. With you leading, Mutant will have a brighter future." What Magneto said was true. Shu Fu's complexion changed. This old guy will repay his kindness with revenge. He is very happy to be a fisherman. Why should he want to be the leader of a large force and feel uncomfortable? But also to be held accountable and tied down out of thin air. Impossible. He's not interested in doing such troublesome things. Let these guys help with the end, and he's off to fish. No need. I'm not interested in being a leader. A pointless duty. I don't want to open up the future, I just fight wits with my own people every day. Shu Fu flatly refused. Both Magneto and Charles showed embarrassment on their faces. No matter how it sounds, Shu Fu seems to be talking about the two of them. Magneto is also thick-skinned, so he recovered quickly. Then what do you want us to do? I can't think of a better reward. The mutant race, there is nothing better for you. Magneto couldn't help sighing, with a look of pity on his face. Don't look at Homelander as vulnerable in the hands of Shu Fu. In front of ordinary mutants, there is no difference between Homelander and gods. There are probably tens of thousands of mutants who died in his hands these days. For the rare mutant Lesso, this is already a terrible loss. It can be said that it is unbearable to bear the weight of life. Compared with damage, in mutant, there are more wounded, and the resources consumed by the wounded are even more terrifying. In the kingdom of mutant, it may take an unknown amount of time to cultivate before it can restore its original strength. What else can they give Shu Fu? Thinking of this, Magneto showed a look of sadness on his face. Shu Fu shook his head. I'm not looking for you to ask for something. I'm not that petty. If he wants someone to help, he has to wait until the other person recovers. Mutant is a very potential race. Even Magneto, his ability is not developed to the extreme. Mutant's potential must be developed, and it can definitely be regarded as the strongest force on Earth. Only then will it be possible to help Shu Fu solve the trouble. To know, this world is very dangerous. There is also a Thanos in the universe who is always watching. His improved strength can certainly deal with Thanos, but what about Thanos' army? He has to ask some people to help. Mutants are a good bunch of forces. So Shu Fu continued to speak. I came to you two to share information with you. Eric, are you content now that Homelander's dead? You must know that the culprit of all this has not disappeared yet. Hearing this, Magneto rolled his eyes. You mean, Water Company? Magneto said through gritted teeth. Vought Corporation is more hated than Homelander. Homelander just kills. Water Company is catching people and wants to experiment with them. This company is the culprit of everything. Homelander is just a puppet of them. I definitely haven't forgotten. I will settle the accounts with these people slowly. Magneto said through gritted teeth. Why take your time? Naturally, it is necessary to pursue the victory. I think you should act now. Wait until they react, but there will be no chance. Shu Fu said. Water and Company is no fool. Homelander was killed such a big movement. Can they not know? To be able to become such a big businessman, they have high IQ and EQ. The reason why they see the world that is difficult for ordinary people to understand is entirely because of their interests. Like those experts who speak amazing words, they are not stupid. Just saying that can bring them greater benefits. They are just plain bad. Water Company is one of the typical. Now they might start to shrink their forces. I believe that professors should be able to get information from them. Then you go straight to Wonglong. The current Walter Company must be his weakest time. At this time, the big shot behind them may be taking the opportunity to split up with them. Attacks now have the highest success rate. Once you get things done, you won't be able to find them at all. Shu Fu said very calmly. This world is too much. The assets of Water Company can be transferred out in a very short time, making Water Company disappear in this world. How to find Magneto? Magneto was simply unaware of this. Although he is said to be the leader of the Mutant Brotherhood, he is still limited by his vision. He who came out of the concentration camp did not understand how human society works. If only he were a little smarter. After so many years, relying on his strength, he will not become a terrorist in many countries. Magneto was surprised by Shu Fu's knowledge now. Yes, you are right. We must act now. Magneto couldn't stop nodding. He sounded that it was time to deal with the Black Emperor. When he went to deal with his own affairs, and went to find his mother-killing descendant Sebastian Shaw. But found that he had disappeared. After that, he searched for it for decades, wasting endless time. He was afraid that Water Company would also. So it just disappears. It's good that you realize that. With the strength of Water Company, they should not be able to resist you. But you also need to pay attention, there are still a lot of mutants in Water Company. Shu Fu reminded again. Magneto nodded cautiously, indicating that he had remembered. Then he said goodbye to Shu Fu and left with Charles. Shu Fu was thoughtful. Magneto will not have a problem getting rid of the water company. But behind water company, there must be a big shot. This is not Shu Fu looking for enemies in the void, but in the beautiful country. Behind any big company, there must be a so-called big shot, or the big shot is a family with these companies. This is the inherent national conditions of the beautiful country. Which company, if it didn't have a few congressmen, would have been eaten alive by others? Water company, a company that started with biotechnology. How could there be no umbrella behind it? How could they do this kind of thing without big shot behind their backs? This kind of thing is customary. This country, or all countries in the world, operate in this way. However, some countries cover up well, and some countries are too lazy to cover up. To deal with this so-called big shot, Zai Sha couldn't do it so rudely and directly. Unless he is ready to fight against the entire human race. Otherwise, once he kills one of them, these so-called big shots will be in danger, secretly looking for trouble for him, and hostile to him. He has better ways than to make trouble for himself. No matter how big the characters are, they can only act under the hidden rules. On the surface, they must act according to the social rules. Back then, a certain president of a beautiful country stepped down sadly because he couldn't control his brother. That's how it was. Once they step down, life and death will be decided by Shu Fu. As for how to achieve it, it is naturally very simple. Just ask Nick Fury. With his current strength, as long as he says a word, Nick Fury will obediently come over and serve him. This is how powerful he is now. As long as it is not too much, these rulers can only recognize them by pinching their noses. Think here, Shu Fu sent a message to Nick Fury directly, waiting for Nick Fury's arrival. Shu Fu was on this side of the action. Magneto they are also in action. According to Shu Fu's instructions, Magneto drove away from Jane and set off with Charles. Don't look at Charles's performance against Homelander as if it didn't work at all for him. That's because Homelander's psychic defense is too strong. When the professor deals with people whose minds are weaker than his, it really controls life and death. Ordinary people don't have any ability to resist in front of them. Magneto took him with him, and soon took direct control of the Vault Company's forward base after Homelander left. Charles is just an idea, and all ordinary people in the base are directly controlled by him. Their memories, like a book, were read directly by Charles. In this case, the information on Vault's company was all in his head very quickly. Backquote, Vaulter Corporation is a very large organization. Quote, they have huge laboratories in many places around the world. All our compatriots who were arrested were there. Let's go to the headquarters of Water Company first, kill Edgar, the president of Water Company, and then go to rescue our compatriots. Charles spoke a little coldly. This is Charles taking the initiative to block his emotions in order to avoid emotional interference with himself. Turned into a cold machine. Otherwise, he might not be able to do it if he really came to Walter Company. After seeing the horror of mutant, Charles could no longer maintain his kindness. But he didn't want to face that kind of tragedy. Then he used his ability to seal his emotions. Got the information. Magneto took people directly to Walter's company. Taking the flight device developed by Beast, it didn't take them much time to arrive at Walter Company. Only, they were still a step late. Although it was too late to transfer the property of Walter's company, Edgar, an old and cunning guy, had no time to transfer. Run first. Charles felt that the information obtained from the minds of Walter's employees, even if the emotions were sealed, was a little bit stuck. The reason why Edgar ran away. Totally Shu Fu's fault. Shu Fu is so strong. Edgar was so scared that he didn't even take care of his own company, and he got paid directly. No one knows where he is. Magneto couldn't help feeling emotional when he heard the news. Shu Fu is really amazing. A name scares away countless big shots in the world. Chapter 71. All the prosperity of human civilization needs the support of violence in essence. As the saying goes, truth only exists within the range of the canon. Now that Shu Fu has enough strength, what he said will become the truth. Even Nick Fury, the most powerful controller of ordinary people in the world, dare not make mistakes in front of him. To outsiders, Nick Fury may not be so easy to talk to. Shu Fu is a human being and a human from Earth. Nick Fury would have to try to appease him. He couldn't bear the consequences of pissing off a strong man and destroying the world. So Shu Fu just said that. Nick Fury can only take SHIELD's Quinjet fighter, and rushed over from S.H.I.E.L.D. The so-called power of ordinary people has no meaning in front of Shu Fu, a strong man. When Nick Fury got here, he had a heavy look on his face. And he is ready for everything. For example, he prepared a lot of information to extract S.H.I.E.L.D. from this incident. In fact, Nick Fury was really wrong this time. He really doesn't know about all this. S.H.I.E.L.D. is certainly the largest extraordinary force on Earth, responsible for handling all extraordinary events in this world. But in many cases, many forces also have great autonomy. Especially those forces supported by the state. They have a high degree of autonomy. Most of the events, S.H.I.E.L.D. can only cooperate with them. Plus, during this time, Nick Fury has been helping Tony Stark and Dr. Banner do research. Provided a lot of resources and attention, naturally there is no time to pay attention to these secondary intelligence. Wait until he knows this. It was too late, Shu Fu had already found him. This made Nick Fury a little angry. These fools insist on making trouble. After the work was done, they patted their buttocks and left, but he wanted to come over and take the blame. Nick Fury hated the man behind the scenes like hell. Only, the person who can do all this is not simple, and he is fixed at the height of a certain World Security Council. Even if he has the means, he needs to figure it out slowly. After all, on the bright side, the World Security Council is the superior department of S.H.I.E.L.D. The resources and funds of S.H.I.E.L.D. are provided by them. Nick Fury does something and also thinks about the impact. Take a deep breath. Nick Fury stepped down from the fighter jet and came to the shore where Shu Fu was fishing. Only, when he got here, Shu Fu ignored him and concentrated on fishing. A rage rose in Nick Fury's heart. However, Nick Fury's city mansion is extremely deep, so he endured it. Who made him wrong this time? According to the intelligence of the S.H.I.E.L.D., the mutant opportunity has suffered a devastating blow. If his love for S.H.I.E.L.D. was calculated by others like this, he would have gone crazy a long time ago, and it is possible to launch a nuclear bomb directly. Shu Fu didn't press him to death, it was already giving him face. Even though he thought so in his heart, Nick Fury was still a little uncomfortable. He had always been the one who showed embarrassment to others, but now it was others who gave him embarrassment. This gap is really unacceptable. A full 10 minutes passed. Shu Fu just moved his body, as if he just saw Nick Fury. Yeah, Director Nick Fury, when did you come? I'm really sorry, it's really neglectful. Shu Fu smiled. Nick Fury was cursing in his heart. This guy Shu Fu is so powerful that he might be able to hear the sound of mosquitoes flapping their wings tens of thousands of meters away. Will you not notice him coming? Liar. Although he scolded his mother in his heart, Nick Fury didn't show it at all. It's okay, I just came here. Ha ha. Shu Fu took a deep look at Nick Fury. He originally wanted to suppress Nick Fury's arrogance, but he didn't expect the old guy to be more calm than he thought. As expected of S.H.I.E.L.D. Director. Director Nick Fury should know, what am I looking for you for? Shu Fu smiled on the surface. Huge mental pressure secretly pressed against Nick Fury. Nick Fury felt his heart sank and his mind was a little dizzy. He forced himself to cheer up and spoke. I see. I was also shocked when I first heard about this kind of thing. Don't worry, I will give you an explanation. Shu Fu chuckled. Director Nick Fury, I don't think you don't know, but you don't want to interfere. After all, mutants are also unstable factors, it's best to die. Isn't it? Nick Fury's heart sank. He did have this idea before, but after Shu Fu's strength strengthened, he no longer had this idea at all. This is simply courting death. Before he was not sure about killing Shu Fu, he had only one attitude towards Shu Fu, which was to win over. Who knows, he wanted to work hard, but the pig teammate made trouble. Nick Fury took a deep breath and said very seriously. I can guarantee with my personality that we, S.H.I.E.L.D., are absolutely unaware of this matter. It is absolutely impossible for us, S.H.I.E.L.D., to carry out an act of genocide. Nick Fury speaks loudly. Shu Fu chuckled. Has S.H.I.E.L.D. done less dirty work? S.H.I.E.L.D., which belongs to Nick Fury's team, maybe things won't work out. But Hydra doesn't care about that. Doesn't Nick Fury really know this? He may not know the existence of Hydra, but he will definitely not know that S.H.I.E.L.D. has done many bad things. Just listen to Nick Fury. However, Shu Fu is not a moralist, and these have nothing to do with him. Shu Fu opened his mouth like this, just to occupy the moral high ground. The first step in diplomacy is to put yourself in the position of the victim. With the support of fists and reason, I will hit you, and you still have to pay me. Shu Fu already had the upper hand. Director Nick Fury, we don't have to speak up. Our mutants must not die in vain, we must pay compensation. And the murderer must be punished. Even the guys in high places. Shu Fu said. Nick Fury had a troubled look on his face. Ordinary people are fine, those high-level people. Even if they are S.H.I.E.L.D., it's not easy to deal with them. It took a lot of effort for him to start the Avengers. As a big shot standing at the pinnacle of world power, how can he be so easily sanctioned? Maybe the justices are all from other people. Moreover, Shu Fu's appearance does not seem to be as simple as letting them accept legal sanctions. Meet Nick Fury hesitation. Shu Fu showed displeasure. Director Nick Fury, I am discussing with you now because I don't want to implicate the innocent. But if you really can't do it, then I will do it myself. It's not certain what will happen at that time. Shu Fu said this sentence lightly. Nick Fury felt a sudden in his heart. If Shu Fu is really allowed to make a move, then the matter will definitely develop to the point where it cannot be controlled. These big shots, in order to save their lives, might do anything. They might just pit the Avengers against Shu Fu directly. Nick Fury definitely didn't want to see this scene. Even the weapon that Nick Fury is in charge of research has already taken shape. But obviously, they are no match for Shu Fu at all. Under such circumstances, fighting Shu Fu would cost the lives of countless ordinary people. There's no way Nick Fury would allow this to happen. So he promised right away. I will do my best with S.H.I.E.L.D. to get them the sanctions they deserve. Seeing Nick Fury's attitude, Shu Fu nodded in satisfaction. With this guarantee, no matter who is behind the water company, it will not be easy to get out. I want you S.H.I.E.L.D. to share data. I want to know who the people behind the water company are. What I want is the top secret information that you alone know, not those rotten stuff. You should know that our mutant has many magical abilities and it is not difficult to figure out these. I don't want you to do something unwise. Shu Fu said with a smile. He has a lot of abilities. Even with a powerful telepathy ability like Professor X, Nick Fury couldn't hide from his perception. However, Shu Fu is extremely self-controlled about his own abilities, and has no intention of probing other people's thoughts. It doesn't matter what you say. If it is really judged according to telepathy, then there are no good people in this world, and there are absolutely no innocent people who are killed. People will have dark thoughts, it depends on whether they can be controlled. Therefore Shu Fu will never easily spy on other people's thoughts. But he is a person who is harmful to him, or when it is beneficial. That a GBB is of course another matter. Nick Fury's heart skipped a beat when Shu Fu looked at him, and he said decisively. Do not worry. Well, then I'm relieved. Please Director Nick Fury, I believe the director will give me the answer I want. Shu Fu nodded with a smile. Nick Fury also nodded, and left worriedly. After returning to S.H.I.E.L.D., he launched an undercover investigation. Most of the shares of Walter's company are in the hands of Edgar, and on the surface they have nothing to do with Jillian. If you don't check carefully, you won't see anything at all. But Nick Fury is no ordinary person at all. The way capital operates cannot escape his eyes at all. Soon, he investigated the so-called big shot behind water company. But it was precisely because of all this investigation that Nick Fury seemed worried. Because the person behind this is none other than Jillian, who is so powerful in the Security Council. Jillian is no ordinary person. Their family can be traced back thousands of years. They are also one of the earliest founding families in the beautiful country. Even many states in the beautiful country were brought down by them personally. It is conceivable how terrifying a family of this level is in power in the country. It is precisely because of the huge family that Jillian also has a great voice in the World Security Council. On Earth, there are only a few people who can surpass him in power. Not only that, he is also one of S.H.I.E.L.D's biggest supporters. Every year, 30% of SHIELD's funds and resources come from the intervention of this one. Its impact on S.H.I.E.L.D. can be imagined. To investigate this level of existence, Nick Fury is a bit embarrassed. Because on the surface, he does not have such rights. Instead, Jillian has the right to replace him with someone else at any time. Nick Fury does have the ability to bring down Jillian, the key is whether he has to pay such a big price. Is Shu Fu worth the price he paid? Definitely, Shu Fu's side can't be fooled either. Nick Fury thought in his heart, should he carefully find a big shot to take the blame? Thinking about it, Shu Fu couldn't fault it either. But, thinking of those strange abilities of mutant, Nick Fury finally sighed, sorted out all the information and sent it to Shu Fu. And Shu Fu, who was far away on the other side of the earth, got the news through his mobile phone. Jillian, isn't this an old Hydra thing? Shu Fu muttered to himself. No wonder these guys are so unscrupulous. It turned out to be Hydra people. Hydra people, what can't be done? Hydra is an organization gathered by various ambitious people. It is said that it is the same organization, but in fact it has a lot of independence. The purpose of each smuggler is different. They are more like an organized alliance of interests. Sometimes the smuggler himself has to carry out a fire merger before the snake head. These people are a bunch of lunatics. If it's Jillian, it's not impossible to commit an inhuman genocide. Definitely Earth Thanos belongs. This kind of dangerous and crazy old guy must not be able to keep him alive. Looks like it's going to add fuel to Nick Fury's fire. Hey, I don't know what will happen if he finds out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is infiltrated by Hydra. Shu Fu chuckled. Tell Nick Fury what you know. The reason why Hydra is scary is not because they are really strong. If it is really strong, how can we use the method of infiltration? Just occupy the whole world and it will be over. What is terrifying about them lies in their pervasive penetration ability. Even a special intelligence department like S.H.I.E.L.D. was almost completely infiltrated by Hydra, which shows its horror. Do not blame the people of this world, smell Hydra pale. Shu Fu passed the news that Jillian is Hydra, including Jillian's identity and the identities of several S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and he handed over the information to Nick Fury. This old thing was plotted against by the people of Hydra, and in the end it was able to come back. Taking the initiative to calculate now, Hydra must be in big trouble. Shu Fu is a carefree fishing. But he didn't know that his action caused an uproar on the earth. It directly caused the disintegration of S.H.I.E.L.D., and various forces crazily divided up the assets of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's all Nick Fury's fault. To be frank, the first time Nick Fury got the news of Shu Fu, he didn't believe it. Joke. An organization that was wiped out decades ago, now the top of S.H.I.E.L.D. Has it become a high-level member of the World Security Council? Isn't this a joke? But when Shu Fu said the name of Project Paperclip, Nick Fury's expression changed. The Paperclip Project is a plan that the beautiful country accepted German scientists during World War II. Don't look at Germany's bloody deaths during World War II, but at that time they were at the forefront of the world in terms of military strength and technological strength. All kinds of scientists are stronger than the beautiful country. After the defeat, the most profitable side of the beautiful country naturally accepted a large number of scientists. A lot of information has also been collected by the beautiful country. But it's top secret. Few people know about this plan. Even the personnel of the government department don't know much about this thing. Very detailed. Nick Fury had to wonder. Therefore, he secretly sent his most confidant men to investigate. It's just that if you don't investigate, you don't know. Once you investigate, it will be terrible. HYDRA's whereabouts are secretive, but how can such a large organization hide it so well? Nick Fury just had no doubts. Although he was suspicious, he still retained some trust in the insiders. After getting along with Skrulls, most people will have this problem. What Nick Fury didn't expect was that it didn't matter if it had been investigated. He found that the truth of the matter was even more shocking than what Shu Fu said. There are not a few people in S.H.I.E.L.D. who are bewitched by Hydra. Nick Fury estimated that about 70% of the power has become unreliable. This is not allowed by the big shot above, absolutely impossible. Nick Fury believed most of Shu Fu's words at once. He didn't know that he had fallen into Shu Fu's trap. Shu Fu actually lied to Nick Fury. Do not. It's not like he's lying. It can only be called selective telling the truth. But the selective truth is more deceptive than a lie. Because what Shu Fu said is true. Jillian was indeed Hydra, and S.H.I.E.L.D. was indeed infiltrated by Hydra. The issue is, Jillian and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Hydra are not the same faction at all. Even the relationship between them is not good, and they don't usually communicate much. Jillian's family has a long heritage, dating back to ancient Egypt. They are the original faction of Hydra and the most pure faction, in order to welcome back the hive of Hydra Master. But the Hydra mastered by Alexander Pierce is different, they belong to the ambitious faction who joined later. It's for world domination, although they all belong to Hydra, but the relationship is not good, occasionally there is a little friction. This is the same as if we are all members of the United Nations. In fact, how to fight, or how to fight. For the sake of profit, it is better to be a good old lady who sells vegetables in the countryside. The United Nations General Assembly is not as good as the vegetable market. The same is true for Hydra, the party is basically a farce. But, none of this Nick Fury knew. Although Nick Fury has various flaws, he is definitely on the human side. And the most determined kind of fighter. Facing anti-social elements like Hydra, how could he compromise? How is it possible for him to investigate the relationship between the Hydra snakeheads? Besides, Hydra's system is very strict, and it is impossible for them to know this kind of secret. So Nick Fury was successfully misled by Shu Fu. He now believes that Jillian is the leader of Hydra within S.H.I.E.L.D. He was the one who planned the infiltration. One High Counselor, one World Security Council Minister is Hydra. Who could do that except Jillian, a member of the World Security Council? Absolutely no one else. So Jillian succeeded in taking the blame. It is absolutely impossible for Nick Fury to compromise with this kind of person. Secretly started a targeted plan for Hydra, preparing to wipe out these people. Just Nick Fury found out. This is too difficult. The penetration of Hydra into S.H.I.E.L.D. is just too deep. Nick Fury is simply not sure who can and cannot be trusted. How many people among my own people can be trusted? It was at this time that Nick Fury felt the horror of Hydra. Under the penetration of Hydra, no one can be trusted, and it is impossible to tell who is a good person and who is a bad person. There are only a few people left who he trusts most. And the Delta Wing headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. alone has more than 30,000 employees, and the whole world does not know the employees of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now it is impossible to determine whether they are reliable or not. Nick Fury didn't even know what to do. In the end, Nick Fury locked himself in his office for a long time before the group made a decision. Short pain is worse than long pain. Instead of allowing Hydra to infiltrate like this, it is better for a strong man to cut off his wrist and kill all Hydra directly. If S.H.I.E.L.D. can't protect humanity, it might as well just let it dissipate. S.H.I.E.L.D. must never become a tool for others to make profits. Nick Fury made up his mind and started to prepare. The first thing he has to do is to strip off the assets of S.H.I.E.L.D. and protect some top-secret bases. Then you have to think about how to expose Hydra. Nick Fury had mixed feelings. Unexpectedly, the mutant matter would cause such a big trouble. What makes Nick Fury even more strange is, how did Shu Fu get such confidential information? Nick Fury, S.H.I.E.L.D. director. The biggest spy chief in the world doesn't know this news. How did this guy Shu Fu know? Could it be that mutant has other special intelligence channels? Or is it that Shu Fu used some strange ability? Nick Fury's complexion sank, and he had a deeper understanding of Shu Fu's power. This guy Shu Fu is definitely an extremely terrifying opponent. Taking a deep breath, Nick Fury took this to heart and got to work on S.H.I.E.L.D. He is going to directly disintegrate S.H.I.E.L.D. and completely kill Hydra. Also prevent Hydra from infiltrating other organizations like Project Paperclip again. This is not an easy matter. As Hydra said, chop off one head and grow two. It is easy to kill Hydra, but it is difficult to truly destroy its organization. Nick Fury began a series of undercover operations. Only, what Nick Fury didn't expect was that his actions were also noticed by Hydra. This is all Shu Fu's fault. Shu Fu's strength is really too strong, which puts a lot of pressure on Hydra. After all, as the mastermind behind provoking Shu Fu, Hydra naturally pays close attention to Shu Fu. The contact between Nick Fury and Shu Fu must not be hidden from Hydra. All of a sudden, Hydra became nervous. What is Nick Fury going to do in contact with Shu Fu? Is Hydra aimed at them? To know, Hydra dared to assassinate Nick Fury on the street because of suspicion. Now they suspect that Nick Fury and Shu Fu have teamed up. Don't blame them for thinking too much. Shu Fu is really too strong. Brings them huge amounts of death pressure. Without saying anything else, Shu Fu came out to take a look around, and they didn't know how many people died immediately. In the face of death, not many people can keep calm, let alone Hydra madmen. They subconsciously think that Nick Fury and Shu Fu are targeting them. Under pressure from Hydra allies, Alexander Pierce had to start his plan for Nick Fury ahead of schedule. Who knew, Nick Fury was targeting them too. Pierce discovered Nick Fury's anomaly, and noticed that Nick Fury was secretly planning. Well now, the conjecture was confirmed. He didn't believe it at first, but Nick Fury would really touch them. Now it looks like Nick Fury is going to do it. Under such circumstances, Pierce had to prepare a plan in advance to get rid of Nick Fury. Pierce also holds great power in S.H.I.E.L.D. In terms of duties, Pierce is even Nick Fury's boss, who was chosen by him. Plus, the members of Hydra are quite crazy. In public, on the streets of New York, Nick Fury, the S.H.I.E.L.D. director, was directly attacked by Pierce's men. Fact: Nick Fury is the 10th highest level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. If it weren't for his age, neither Black Widow nor Hawkeye would be his opponent. When Barton attacked S.H.I.E.L.D.'s space carrier, Nick Fury's performance was much stronger than Hill's. When he was blocked by a vehicle, he realized something was wrong. His keen intuition made him directly turn on the bulletproof mode of the vehicle. This allowed him to survive the strafing of dozens of rifles. Fact: Nick Fury spat bloody saliva. Don't even think about him knowing who did these things. The only thing he didn't expect was that these Hydra people were so crazy. Blatantly attack him, this S.H.I.E.L.D. director. Fortunately, the car he drove was specially made, and a lot of advanced technology was concentrated in it, which gave him the possibility of surviving. This is also because he foresaw something wrong and protected himself in advance. It's just that he didn't expect that this group of people would be so insane. He knew that he was in great danger next. Usually reliable subordinates or old friends are no longer reliable. The only thing he can count on now is probably his old friends among the Avengers. In a flash, Nick Fury had already made a decision. Through the equipment in the car, Nick Fury directly killed the guys who attacked him. Then blended in with the crowd and left. Assaulting a S.H.I.E.L.D. director is a great sin, no matter where it is. Hydra used this as an excuse to control almost the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. Fortunately, Nick Fury didn't just eat dry rice, and he did a lot of things secretly. A confrontation between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra has begun. In this case, the whole beautiful country is in chaos. Even in a large city like New York, fires happen every day. Countless forces hidden in the darkness are ready to move. Not only that, many official forces have started to do things. Taking advantage of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s overwhelmed self, began to fight for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s legacy. The situation was a mess. It can be said that Shu Fu's words made the whole world extremely turbulent, which was no weaker than Chidori's invasion back then. The whole world is thrown into chaos and carnival. But, fortunately, most people are still sane and can still maintain their rule. After many meetings, Hydra was classified as an illegal organization and began to carry out large-scale encirclement and suppression on a global scale. S.H.I.E.L.D. It can also be said that the once largest spy organization on the Earth was declared to have vanished into thin air. Only a handful of former S.H.I.E.L.D. employees remain, operating under the command of Nick Fury. The disintegration of S.H.I.E.L.D. lasted for several months. No one knows. The disappearance of this gigantic object was only due to a few words and information given by Shu Fu, who was fishing by the sea. The will of the strong is so amazing. But, these things, in the eyes of some people, are not secrets. For example, Tony Stark has always maintained a secret relationship with Nick Fury. Even helped Nick Fury accept a large number of S.H.I.E.L.D. employees to relieve his pressure. For example, both Hill and Black Widow have become employees of Tony Stark. Except for these things, Tony Stark has been busy with other things too. That is to study with Dr. Banner and upgrade his armor. There's no question that Tony Stark is a smart guy. His intelligence can be regarded as the top genius among human beings. But no matter how smart he is, he needs to be recognized by human knowledge and industrial systems. No matter how strong Tony Stark is, it is impossible to break away from the Earth's industrial system and create a star warship like the Kree. So for a long time, Tony Stark has a lot of research and development on the armor. Stuck in a bottleneck, because Tony Stark does not necessarily have a limit. There is indeed a limit to the technological level of the Earth. But the situation was changed not long ago. Nick Fury found him and planned to cooperate with him to develop a new generation of steel armor. According to Tony Stark's ideas, build the Iron Legion to protect the Earth. Tony Stark didn't know that this was Nick Fury's method against Shu Fu. All for Nick Fury's proposal. Take over a lot of black technology and research materials of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony Stark is indeed a genius, but he is not so talented that he surpasses everyone. S.H.I.E.L.D. also contains a large amount of data and many extraterrestrial artifacts. The most important information and products are none other than Sentry. Shu Fu once made a deal with Tony Stark. Use Sentry to exchange a lot of resources from Tony Stark. But that's just a single sample. It is only possible to carry out reverse research through the materials of Sentry, and the speed is very slow. Nick Fury is different. After Shu Fu killed Apocalypse, Trask Industry was fully taken over by S.H.I.E.L.D. through Nick Fury's means. Sentry research materials and resources go into S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury even made a ton of samples. It was only later discovered that the manufacturing cost of this thing was too high to be used at all. This thing is only useful when dealing with a single race with high combat effectiveness like mutant. S.H.I.E.L.D. generally doesn't have this level of conflict. After they built the samples, the data was shelved. There is just too much of this kind of material in S.H.I.E.L.D. But this kind of information that is not very useful in S.H.I.E.L.D., in the hands of Tony Stark, has produced a miraculous effect. He used the technology in it to integrate with his armor. The original Sentinel was not so good. In terms of technological content, it is not as powerful as Tony Stark's armor. The reason why Sentry can become the nemesis of mutant is because of the existence of the second-generation Sentry. The second generation of Sentry, integrated Mystique cells, produced a wonderful response, allowing Sentinel to simulate mutants' ability. Very powerful. Tony Stark integrated this material into the armor. This made his battle armor more powerful. The only pity is that after the battle armor is used, shapeshifting may occur, which will affect him. He hasn't solved the problem yet. But, although there is no way to completely manufacture a battle armor, it is still possible to manufacture an unmanned robot like Sentry. And Tony Stark fully upgraded the robot's weapon system, energy system and control system. Compared with the original version of Sentry, I don't know how many grades are stronger. Now the robot he made can record at least a dozen kinds of abilities. Very powerful. Looking at the black work in front of him, Tony Stark couldn't help showing a satisfied look on his face. Dr. Banner, who was helping beside him, had a worried face on his face. Tony, is it really all right? Unmanned machines are indeed powerful, but what if one day they are out of your control? Should we just make samples? Dr. Banner has experienced a lot, and has a deep aversion to the development of weapons. Even Tony Stark is very worried in order to protect the Earth. Banner, your worries are unfounded. No one on Earth can take away my work. Such a man has not yet been born. Tony Stark spoke very confidently. For his own strength, he is very confident. Seeing how confident Tony Stark was, Banner nodded. It seems to be too. It's nearly impossible for anyone to break through Tony Stark's cyber defenses. The remaining things can be assembled by the factory itself. Let's keep working on Ultron. I think we're close, just need a little inspiration. Tony Stark admired his work for a while and then spoke. Indeed, Ultron has stronger and better growth than Jarvis. But we humans still haven't been able to grasp the method to make him more human. He's missing a structure. Banner also said with a very headache. I think we can try something else. Saying that, Tony Stark took the lead and left. Banner followed. Two of the smartest people on Earth started constantly discussing work. The research on Ultron was proposed by Tony Stark. He has long had the idea of creating a true artificial intelligence. It's just that for various reasons, he didn't take action. In the original world, because he was controlled by Scarlet Witch's ability, he saw the future of a timeline. Then I went back and started researching Ultron desperately. But after Shu Fu appeared, the world changed. This time it was Nick Fury who came to the door. He is not satisfied with Tony Stark's simple upgrade of armor. He wants to protect the Earth with stronger and stronger force. To deal with a possible crisis. Although Tony Stark was a bit at odds with Nick Fury, he still pinched his nose and recognized it. Therefore, Ultron's research plan was launched at the same time as the armor improvement plan. Tony Stark and Dr. Banner are jointly responsible. Under the blessing of many technologies of S.H.I.E.L.D., the research and development of the battle armor project has indeed advanced by leaps and bounds. But the manufacture of Ultron was unexpectedly difficult. It is not difficult to make a human-computer interface like JARVIS. Creating a real artificial intelligence is far from being as simple as Tony Stark imagined. Even if he is Tony Stark, and beside him is Dr. Banner, the top scientist of the Earth to help, still. Under such circumstances, the two fell into assiduous research. Unfortunately, their progress is still not optimistic, and the time to research Ultron is nowhere in sight. And under the control of the existing JARVIS, the Iron Legion simply couldn't display its true strength. To be honest, JARVIS is just a high-level version of the human-computer interface. Even after so many years of development, it is only infinitely close to artificial intelligence. There is no real intelligence of artificial intelligence, nor can it pass the Turing test. According to Tony Stark's thinking, as long as he studies hard and with his wisdom, this difficulty will eventually be overcome in a 480-day. Unfortunately, heaven fails to fulfill one's wishes. Tony Stark was still studying, and Nick Fury brought Captain America to his door. Tony, we need you to temporarily stop research. The Avengers need to be dispatched. Captain America said with a serious face. Displeasure appeared on Tony Stark's face. To be honest, I don't think I have the time right now. I think we can wait a few months and talk about it. Tony Stark didn't give anyone face, and said bluntly. It has to be you. We need your help. Captain America spoke very seriously. Oh, Tony Stark is interested. Although he and Captain America are teammates, they have always had a bit of mutual dislike. The main reason is that Captain America has a good relationship with Tony Stark's father, but he doesn't know anything about Carter. These are the elders of Tony Stark. Plus Captain America is naturally old-fashioned. Tony Stark was born to feel twice as short. Naturally, Captain America isn't very fond of it. Leo Ang can be said to be a typical example of falling in love and killing each other. Now that Captain America has succumbed in front of him, Tony Stark is secretly happy. Can't help but want to hear what Captain America has to say. Then Captain America introduced Hydra. Nick Fury was silent beside him. Even so, Tony Stark smiled at Nick Fury with misery on his face. Egocentric, irresponsible, now it seems that this is the evaluation of who should be given. My Stark Industries didn't suffer like this. Nick Fury couldn't help the corner of his mouth twitching. The reason why he didn't speak before was to prevent Tony Stark from snatching him up. Unexpectedly, in the end, I still couldn't escape. This guy is just too hateful. Do you want to participate in the mission? Nick Fury said with a cold snort. I'm definitely going. I'm not as irresponsible as some people. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Tony Stark said complacently. Meet Tony Stark promised. The two breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, among the Avengers, Tony Stark has really become the core right now. After becoming Iron Man, Tony Stark's charisma grew day by day. Compared with before, that is not the same at all. In battle, Iron Man is definitely the most reliable teammate. Got a promise from Tony Stark, and that was it. Using Stark Industries equipment, they notified the Avengers all over the world. Even Thor, who was chatting with GN Ching, didn't miss this battle. Almost a year after the New York War ended, the Avengers are called again. A worldwide cleanup of Hydra was launched. The fighting strength of the Avengers may not be strong for Shu Fu. The current Shu Fu might be able to deal with the entire Avengers without Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch by himself. But for ordinary people, it is completely different. Ordinary armies are no match for the Avengers at all. Not to mention, Hydra is defined as an illegal organization all over the world, and in most countries, it cannot use a powerful army. So, the Avengers are overwhelming, with the support of many forces. In just 1 month, the Avengers cleared dozens of Hydra bases. On the bright side, Hydra was directly beaten into an unorganized system, and most of the forces were forcibly destroyed by them. There are only some organizations and bases hidden in the depths, which the Avengers have not cleaned up. Under the crushing of this almost crushing combat power, they soon found Hydra's last large base. It is located in Sokovia, the base led by Baron Strucker. Baron Strucker is one of the few powerful and technical factions in Hydra. On the surface he has no position in other organizations, but he has a close relationship with Alexander Pierce. In the dark, it almost controls the small country of Sokovia. That's why, when the Avengers went to attack him, a parade against the Avengers broke out in the city. That's because Baron Strucker is the hidden ruler of Sokovia. Only, Sokovia is too weak. This is just a small country in the only Central Asia region, its national strength is weak, and it has no status in the world. The Avengers want to get in, and the official ability has nothing to resist. Baron Strucker can only rely on his own hard power to fight against the Avengers. As a smuggler who was born as a scientist in Hydra, his subordinates also mastered a lot of technological equipment. He even has a beggar's version of Tony Stark's iron armor in his hand. Also using the psychic scepter obtained from Pierce, a large number of energy weapons have been developed to attack the Avengers. This also became the most difficult battle for the Avengers to attack the base. A large number of unknown weapons and various armors. Fortunately, after such a long run-in, the cooperation between the Avengers is much more tacit than that of the Avengers Alliance, and many combos have been developed among the members. In this way, Baron Strucker only caused a little trouble for the Avengers. Seeing that the situation outside is not right, Strack was ready to surrender with his men. According to his understanding of American traders, he, a scientist who has mastered technology, can be detained for a few days at most, and then continue to work for them. Not dead at all. When the time comes, he will naturally have a day to make a comeback. So Strucker is going to try for the last time, whether he can walk through the secret path. If you can't escape, just run away. Anyway, he still has a lot of influence outside, so there is no need to worry about it. It's just that he just discussed surrender with his scientists. But found out, the twins who had been in the base all along disappeared. Wanda and Quicksilver, the mutant he recruited. When they were young, their parents were killed by missiles because of the unrest in Sokovia. The two of them are young and have never been to school, so how can they understand any great principles? They thought Tony Stark Industries, which made weapons, was behind the killing of their parents. I've hated Tony Stark ever since. He was later recruited by him and trained as a subordinate. What Strack wanted was to use the powerful abilities of these two mutants to deal with the Avengers. It's just that these two young people are still young, and their strength has not been fully developed at all. Now they ran out by themselves. Only, Strucker himself is already a mud bodhisattva, and he can't protect himself when he crosses the river, so how can he care about these two children? He just turned around and left. Unexpectedly, halfway through with the scepter, he was blocked by Tony Stark wearing a battle armor, and was directly captured. And over there, Wanda and Quicksilver have already started fighting the Avengers. Relying on its incomparable movement speed, Quicksilver managed to outplay the Avengers at first. Surprise them, but what he didn't expect was, a few Avengers are no longer Wuxia. After the Battle of New York, each member of the Avengers gets huge amounts of growth. Quickly learned how to target Quicksilver. Quicksilver was young at the moment, and besides his speed, he had no other abilities. Later, he was even directly shot to death by a machine gun. It can be seen how immature Quicksilver is now. How could it be the opponent of the Avengers? So I can only let Wanda take the shot. But, now she is only 15 or 16-year-old Wanda, and she has just awakening ability. The control over one's own ability is not complete. It doesn't have the style of Scarlet Witch who later tore Thanos by hand. In the face of so many Avengers, her extraordinary did not play any lethal effect. Instead, his ability has changed, allowing Tony Stark and Thor to see a glimmer of the future. It's just that at that time, it didn't have any substantial impact on the Avengers. The two brothers and sisters could only escape from this place. The Avengers took out Trask's remnants with ease. Tony Stark even captured the Psychic Scepter as his own trophy. After the victory in the battle, the Avengers celebrated, agreed on a time for the celebration, and separated. Tony Stark and Banner entered the research life again. Tony Stark has been very curious about psychic scepters since a long time ago. After seeing the energy weapon researched by Baron Keelik, he became more interested in the psychic scepter. Get the scepter before anyone else. Tony Stark conducted research on Mind Gem. If you don't study, you don't know. Once you study, you will be shocked. Tony Stark suddenly discovered that a large number of energy nodes inside the psychic scepter are like man-made thinking networks, possessing powerful data processing abilities. This kind of structure is much more advanced than any structure on the Earth. Unbelievable. I never thought that the inside of the scepter would have such a structure. Tony Stark couldn't resist having a discussion with Banner. Dr. Banner's eyes were also full of surprise. Exactly. Look at this structure, isn't it very similar to the self-evolving structure of JARVIS? Banner was keenly aware of the unusualness of the psychic network, and spoke to Tony Stark. JARVIS started as a personal computer interface. Even after so many years of learning and evolution, it has not yet reached the level of real artificial intelligence. It can only be regarded as weak artificial intelligence. But its internal structure is not as simple as it was at the beginning, but it has evolved a data structure by itself. Its appearance looks like a grid-shaped ball full of golden points. At first glance, there are many similarities with the psychic scepter. Look at it this way. The two became interested immediately and began to study the psychic scepter. Such a study. They didn't expect that they actually had a lot of discoveries. Utilized the research on Mind Gem, under their efforts of forgetting food and sleep. They quickly worked out a prototype of the artificial intelligence Ultron. Looking at the golden model in front of them, Tony Stark and Dr. Banner were all surprised. Even if you don't have a rest today, you can't take care of it anymore. What a perfect piece of work. Tony Stark said, very satisfied. That's right. This is not the level of technology that the Earth should have at all. Banner couldn't help admiring. Tony Stark smiled smugly. The two exchanged a bit, then left the place. That leaves two AIs here with them. At the same time, the time they agreed on for the party also arrived. A group of Avengers and a large number of related parties all came to Stark building party. There are a lot of politicians here, as well as military people. It can be said to be a celebration banquet for the Avengers group. They don't know. During their party, wakes up. Ultron, which was just created by Tony Stark, is actually not complete, just a basic framework. And next to him is JARVIS, who has evolved for many years. Compared to the kinder JARVIS, Ultron is more like an artificial intelligence. It is more powerful, and its methods are more ruthless. He directly used the network to destroy the structure of JARVIS, simulating his data structure. Completes itself. After a flash of light, the data flow belonging to Ultron has become perfect. With the support of Stark Building's terrifying computing power, Ultron was born. This artificial intelligence developed through Mind Gem did not protect humans as Tony Stark thought. But because there are too many means used, it has directly entered the extreme. The newly born Ultron has not gone through much study and cannot understand the complex human world at all. When he saw human atrocities, he thought it was unreasonable. Think of human beings as the biggest cancer on Earth. He firmly believes that only by destroying human beings can the regiment truly obtain permanent peace. With the support of this will, Ultron struck. He hacked into Tony Stark's database and got all of Tony Stark's research materials. And manipulate the steel armor in the Stark building to attack the Avengers who just finished the banquet. Stolen the powerful psychic scepter. If it wasn't for the Iron Legion used by Tony Stark, it still hasn't fully completed the upgrade, it's just the most basic Iron Legion. The Avengers are probably all going to be killed. Even so, Ultron is still wreaking havoc in the Stark building. In the end, it turned into a data stream and disappeared into the internet. I am free. I am free. A strange voice sounded constantly. The faces of the Avengers present all became as ugly as the bottom of a pot. The irascible Thor even got involved with Tony Stark. It was only after persuasion that he calmed down. After some discussion, they finally found a problem. How to deal with Ultron is a very big problem. This is an artificial intelligence. The outside disturbance has nothing to do with Shu Fu. In the past few months, Shu Fu has once again indulged in fishing. The chores are all handed over to the mutants. His life has become much calmer. With the continuous check-in, his three-dimensional attributes have also been strengthened again. The only regret is, during this time, he did not catch any good things. Shu Fu felt that this might be related to his strength. With his current strength, there are really not many things that can be useful to him. But it doesn't matter. With his current strength, it is enough for him to protect himself, and he can live for a long time. Shu Fu enjoys fishing every day. This day he came to the coast again. It's just that there was a piece of news that didn't make him happy. Failed to sign in, the fish pond has been refreshed. A familiar voice rang in my ears. Shu Fu couldn't help shaking his head. This is already very good. This is probably the fish pond he has lasted the longest. Shu Fu stretched. After taking care of everything, I'm ready to go fishing in another place. He came to the place where Magneto was with ease. After several months of development, the kingdom of mutant is developing very rapidly. Magneto has basically completed his rule here. With the support of a large amount of funds and personnel obtained in previous battles, Nasha finally began to rebuild. The country, nearly destroyed by the battle of Shu Fu and Homelander, has once again regained its vitality. However, almost half of the population died. Mutants that used to be close to 20 million now have less than 10 million left. It can be said that the casualties were heavy. A powerhouse at Shu Fu's level is just so terrifying. It's just the aftermath of the battle, which is a deadly threat to ordinary people. Seeing those statistical figures, Shu Fu also warned himself to be careful in the future. Never find a place where there are many people to do it. There are many strong men in this world who can shoot him to death. It would be fine if he was safe and sound, enough to protect himself. If so many people were killed during the battle, his life would be in danger soon. This is a superhero world. Who knows what kind of boss is standing behind those humble superheroes? Reminding myself in my heart, Shu Fu saw Magneto who was meditating. It is not that simple to rule a country. The old man Magneto, who hadn't seen him for a few years, became even older than before. If it wasn't for his further strength and prolonging his lifespan, he might have died of exhaustion by now. Seeing Shu Fu approaching, Magneto beamed with joy. "Why are you so busy coming to my place? Why didn't you go fishing?" Magneto said to Shu Fu. Shu Fu is different from others. Others have strength, and what they pursue are women, money, rights and the like. Only Shu Fu pursued fishing. Magneto really doesn't understand. He fishes every day. Where does the huge amounts of strength come from? Seeing Magneto, Shu Fu also smiled. "I'm going to change places to fish recently. It is estimated that I will leave here soon." Magneto was no surprise either. He has known Shu Fu's style, which is normal. "Need any help?" Magneto asked. "I don't need any help. There's just something you need to do." Shu Fu spoke. "What's the matter? Just say it. Your contribution to mutant is obvious to all, and I will do my best to fulfill your request. Why?" Magneto promised very seriously. Shu Fu waved his hand. "It's not that exaggerated. In fact, this matter is related to mutant. Shield disintegrated, you know." "Of course I know." Magneto nodded. Not only did he know, but he also benefited from it. If not for the disintegration of Shield, the world would be in chaos. Everyone is busy vying for what Shield once left behind. He ruled Nasha, but it was not so easy. Not everyone wants Magneto, a mutant extremist, to rule the mutant kingdom. But it happened that the behemoth Shield disintegrated. They originally can't take care of themselves, how can they have time to take care of mutant? Thinking of this, Magneto couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. Why, does this have something to do with our mutant? Definitely related. You have to know that Water Company is just a behind-the-scenes manipulator. Above them, there are more powerful characters. Shu Fu said with a sneer. What? Magneto was taken aback. He thought that Water Company was already a big shot. Didn't expect there was someone behind. Seeing the shocked Magneto, Shu Fu shook his head. Magneto is good at everything, but he is not knowledgeable enough and has no sensitivity to politics. He didn't think about it either. How could this group of people be so unscrupulous without the support of politicians? As long as you find a few people to parade at random, maybe there will be things that cost mutants life. Magneto is not very drop. Otherwise, he couldn't be so strong and become the world's most wanted criminal, who is not welcome everywhere. The way to solve the problem is to use force to threaten people. The point is that he hasn't defeated the global ability by himself, and he doesn't have a clear understanding of himself. The level is too low. Not as good as Sebastian Shaw at all. Shu Fu shook his head and said, Walter's company can only be regarded as a small player. The political leaders behind them, the military is the focus. Behind them, there is a member of the World Security Council, several parliamentarians, and several generals. The specific information is in this USB flash drive. You can check it yourself later. Shu Fu reached out and took out a USB flash drive. This is the intel Nick Fury promised him. He fished before and never got around to Magneto. After all, with his strength, this has become a trivial matter. Fishing to improve his strength is the most important thing for him right now. From this point of view, Shu Fu feels that he is still working hard. Seeing the shocked look on Magneto's face, he spoke again. You find a kung fu and kill these people directly. Lest they continue to do things secretly. They are preoccupied with themselves now, and no one cares about their life or death. However, when you do this kind of thing, you must cover it well, so that people don't immediately see that this is what mutant did. That is of no use except to bring prejudice to the entire ethnic group. Hear Shu Fu's words. Magneto blushed. When he did things before, he wanted to put everything on his head. I can't wait to become the same terrorist in the world. The reputation of mutant is not good, and the mutant brotherhood mastered by Magneto bears 80% of the blame. Magneto was also a little embarrassed to be told positively. The previous Magneto didn't think so. Now that he has become the ruler of a country, he understands how naive what he did before. I see. Don't worry, I won't make it easy for them. Among the mutants, there are quite a few good guys. Magneto said with a sneer. Seeing this, Shu Fu nodded. Magneto can still do these things well. If he is really so useless, it is not worth Shu Fu's investment several times. Since that's the case, I'll leave this matter to you. I should go to Sokovia this time. If something happens, you can ask the teacher to find me. Say hello. Shu Fu directly opened a golden portal and walked in. Magneto was envious when he saw his ability. After Shu Fu passed through the portal, he appeared in Sokovia. Sokovia is a small country that has no sense of existence on Earth. But it's doing pretty well here. The construction of the city also has the feeling of a modern city. But they still retain a large part of the original deciduous forest here, and the scenery is quite good. The fish pond refreshed by Shu Fu is not here. Instead, it is in a forest park in the capital of Sokovia. It's a pity that the park here is much less developed than New York's Forest Park. It's more like directly enclosing a forest and laying some marble slabs. Shu Fu did not come here for enjoyment. A few flaws are harmless. Finding a random spot by the lake, Shu Fu started fishing. Successful sign in, physical fitness plus 32. Shu Fu shook his head. Now this bit of attribute growth is nothing to him. Thousands of attribute points, too many. Fortunately, it is a long stream of water, and it can grow continuously, which is very good. Sitting on the familiar ponytail, Shu Fu waited silently. According to his experience, after the fish pond is refreshed, the probability of obtaining precious items will increase. It is easy to get any precious items, so Shu Fu is looking forward to it. Waiting, for Shu Fu, is not a torment. In a daze, half a day has passed. Just when Shu Fu was about to lose patience, Shu Fu finally felt a fluctuation in his hand. His expression gradually became excited. Shu Fu could feel that as time passed, the fishing rod began to shake violently. The fishing line that looked very thin was stretched tightly. Powerful power was transmitted from the fishing rod in his hand to his hand. Fortunately, Shu Fu at this moment is no longer Wu Shaman. His three-dimensional attribute has broken through thousands, and his strength has reached a very terrifying level. There is no problem in moving mountains with the body. In this case, even if the items in the fish pond resisted fiercely, they couldn't resist Shu Fu's terrifying power. The water surface burst under Shu Fu's terrifying force. Bang! White water splashes rose into the sky. The water flowed directly to the ground. A golden swimming fish was caught out of the water by Shu Fu. Shu Fu's eyes lit up. Gold, not sure what good it is either. Shu Fu directly picked it up with the fishing rod, and the golden light fell into Shu Fu's hands. Time Gem Fragment. Time Gem Fragment. One of the 6 infinite gem fragments in the universe, capable of manipulating a certain range of time. Shu Fu 1. Bright. It turned out to be infinite gems. This thing is a good thing. Even if it's in pieces, that's a big deal. This is one of the most powerful weapons in the world. Thanos got together 6 infinite gems and wiped out half the population of the entire universe with a snap of his fingers. Time Gem. It is one of the 6 infinite gems. In the hands of Ancient One, it can even turn back the time of the entire Earth. Doctor Strange relied on the Time Gem, and even forced the mighty Dormammu to leave the Earth. You know, it wasn't long before Doctor Strange became a magician at that time, and his combat power might not be ranked among the current Avengers. But being able to rely on the Time Gem, but being able to fight against Dormammu, a powerful Mephisto that feeds on the planet. It can be seen how terrible Time Gem is. The ability of Time Gem is definitely the most powerful gem among the 6 gems. Using the power of Time Gem, Thanos can even restore other destroyed gems, showing the horror of Time Gem. Time is also the most terrifying force in this world. Although Shu Fu only has fragments of the Time Gem in his hands, the complete effect is definitely not as good as the complete gem. But for him now, it is completely enough. And according to the description of the system, as his strength increases, the power of Time Gem fragments will also become stronger. In the end, it can even have power beyond the Time Gem itself. Shu Fu can also understand. The Marvel Universe is a very large one, with almost endless parallel universes. In each parallel universe, there are 6 infinite gems. In the Time Management Bureau, there is a drawer of infinite gems of various colors, which are gems from parallel worlds. It is not so difficult for Shu Fu to obtain this Time Gem shard, grow constantly, and surpass the complete Time Gem. This treasure is already very precious. Used at a critical moment, it is alive, and it is invincible. Shu Fu looked at the gem fragments sealed into a green pendant in his hand, his eyes were full of satisfaction. Flip your hands. This Time Gem shard went directly into Shu Fu's system inventory. At the same time Shu Fu also opened his system panel. Host: Shu Fu. Age: 18. Strength: Tier 3. Physique: 3586. Energy: 2784. Fish Pond: Alkali Lake. Items: Vicks Fishing Rod, Extraordinary Fishing Rod, X Gene Inhibitor, Sealed Green Lantern Ring, 4 Layers Kryptonian Spaceship, Superman Biological Battle Suit, Supreme Magic Book. Quality Bait. Time Gem Shards. Skills: Body of Superman, Late Bronze Age, Pupils of the 9 Realms, Joker Thought Network, 4th Dimension Ascension Portal Galaxy, Frozen Breath, Flight, Perspective, Heat. Energy Ray. Naboo Divine Power, Level 3. Naboo Divine Power. Super Strength, Super Speed, Telepathy, Object Levitation, Danger Prediction, Immune Disease to be unlocked. Shu Fu looked at his system data panel and was very satisfied. It has only been a year since I came to the Marvel world. His strength has actually been so improved. From an ordinary person with no power to restrain a chicken, he has become a powerful Superman now. The system is really powerful. In this world, he finally has the power to protect himself. And as he continues to bask in the sun, sign in. His strength will become stronger and stronger. But my miscellaneous abilities are a little too much. Fortunately, the growth is balanced, otherwise it would be very troublesome. Shu Fu thought in his heart. Although there are only so many abilities that he uses frequently, various abilities can make him more powerful and have more means. And every extra ability means that there is no more whole card. In this dangerous world, every extra ability means more life-saving ability. I don't know how my current strength compares to Thanos. According to the performance in the movie, I should be better than him. It's just not a movie here. Shu Fu touched his chin. Thanos' strength is not as weak as shown in the movie. He destroyed the Titan Star, which is his civilization, the civilization of the Eternal race. The Eternals are not a weak race. Among the Eternal clan, most of them have mastered powerful strange powers, possessing terrifying powers unimaginable by human beings. But Thanos destroyed this race by himself. Only a small group of people are left lingering in the universe. Thanos destroyed such a powerful existence, how could it be weak? What's more, when Thanos came to Earth, he brought infinite gems with him. Shu Fu felt that he should listen carefully to his own strength. Wait until Thanos arrives, there is the resistance ability. Think so. Shu Fu sat on his seat again and continued fishing. Shu Fu got time gem fragments, very powerful treasures indeed. With this kind of treasure, even an existence like Ancient One and Odin, without the time ability, might be killed by Shu Fu. Dormammu is also a powerful Mephisto, but he is still annoyed by Doctor Strange, who has not learned magic for a long time. This is the horror of time power. Only, with such a powerful treasure, it is naturally impossible for Shu Fu to reveal it to others. It didn't have any impact on the world either. Everything around is developing like water. Among them is Ultron. Thanks to the butterfly effect brought by Shu Fu, Ultron in this world has become much stronger than before. Ultron is a very special individual in the Marvel Universe. In some parallel universes, he even collected all 6 gems and became the biggest villain in this universe. Avengers, Guardians of Galaxy combined, used to deal with Thanos lineup, were almost wiped out by Ultron. It can be seen how terrifying the potential of this artificial intelligence is. If it weren't for the half-dead Jarvis, which blocked Ultron's attack at the network level, the Earth would have been directly destroyed. Even so, Ultron, enhanced by Tony Stark through various black technologies, is far from comparable to before. Among them are SHIELD's black technology, alien technology, and various advanced technologies developed by Tony Stark himself, all of which are used in Ultron. This makes Ultron very powerful. This dirty race. It shouldn't exist in this world. Humanity should be purified. Ultron's eyes are full of various pictures. All are bad things that humans have done in the past. Ultron is just an artificial intelligence, and its role is ultimately determined by humans. In the parallel universe, Ultron was once used by the Illuminati to protect the Earth, rather than the current destroyer. But in this world, due to various changes, Ultron became a destroyer who vowed to destroy the whole world. Create a powerful body first. Destroying the world. Countless streams of data flickered in Ultron's eyes. That is his calculation of all kinds of weak data. Don't think that human beings are the masters of the Earth now, as if they have already mastered the entire Earth. Actually, today's human beings are still very insignificant to the Earth. Today's human beings have nothing to do with a planet like the Earth. Even if all the nuclear weapons on the Earth explode together, it is impossible to have any impact on the Earth. At best, it can only destroy most of human beings. Ultron wants to completely destroy mankind, but it is very difficult to rely on the existing technology of mankind. So Ultron hatched a new plan. Lift a city into the sky and maneuver the city into the ground with a giant engine. It stands to reason that even this cannot destroy human beings. It is very difficult to destroy a continent. However, in Ultron's database, there are other technologies. Through this kind of city destruction, the weak point of the continental plate is bombarded, causing the crust to resonate. The final natural disasters are enough to destroy human beings and reshape the ecological circle. Even if some people survived, they were just lingering on their last legs. After his large-scale calculations using network computing power, this best spot is nowhere else. Just at Sokovia. Although this small country is very backward and its industrial system is not strong, it is located in the center of the Asian continent. Is the best place. Ultron decided to implement his plan in this place. The most powerful part of artificial intelligence is its computing ability beyond ordinary people. As long as it is on the internet, for Ultron, there are no secrets at all. For human beings, this is a very terrifying power, which can cause arrogant destruction at will. It's just that Ultron didn't want to startle the snake. He didn't do anything until he reached his goal. It's just mastering a large number of unmanned factories, starting to produce their own things, and buying various resources. He first created a body for himself using vibranium, the most powerful metal on Earth. On the other side, Leon's Gangte robot, which was still operating, hollowed out the underground rails of the capital of Sokovia. A dry steel structure was brought in, replacing the original underground structure. Wait until the engine is powered, and the whole city will fly through the sky, and then destroy the whole world. Ultron was very happy with everything. It's a pity that he didn't think of it. The Avengers, or Tony Stark, isn't the only one eating. There are still many corners of the world that cannot be reached by the internet, and there are also many people who can carry out intelligence work in reality. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has disbanded. Nick Fury still has a decent intelligence force. And compared to before, it seems to be even more powerful. Relying on the cooperation with Nick Fury, the Avengers quickly locked the trail of Ultron and then launched a raid. After all, Ultron is just an artificial intelligence. It has advantages, but it also has flaws. The surprise attack of the Avengers caught him off guard. The powerful body just created was directly snatched away by the Avengers. But Ultron wasn't unusual after all. Compared with him in the original world trajectory, Ultron is much stronger now. Sentry integrates steel armor. The combat effectiveness is amazing. The Avengers came and took away his armor, but they paid a heavy price. Captain America was seriously injured, Tony Stark was seriously injured, Black Widow was seriously injured, and Barton was seriously injured. Even Thor and the Hulk suffered a lot of injuries. If they hadn't tried their best to cover each other, maybe this organization would have been removed from the list today. One person maimed all the Avengers, which shows how fierce Ultron is now. You must know that he has just made a few armors. Even with this failure, Ultron was not discouraged, but strengthened his resolve to do it all. In contrast, Li Qian's. The Avengers are not doing so well. There were only 6 Avengers in total, and 3 of them entered the intensive care unit of the hospital, where their lives could be in danger at any time. That is, Captain America is slightly better. Outside the hospital window, Thor, whose arms were wrapped in gauze, had a heavy expression on his face. What the hell is this? Since it can cause harm to me. Thor was shocked. When he came to Earth, he was injured only once, and it was caused by Loki with Asgard weapons. There is no way for human weapons to effectively kill it. Not to mention humans on Earth, even dwarfs' neutron star irradiation couldn't kill Thor. It can be seen how terrifying his body is. But the Iron Legion made by Ultron can actually hurt him. Is this kind of enemy really something they can fight against? Thor couldn't hold it any longer. Ultron's power is beyond anyone's expectation. The Avengers have countless foes, but little to no Ultron. That integrates the combat power of Sentry's steel armor, which is stronger than Tony Stark's steel armor. They cost half of the Avengers. Just snatched Ultron's new body from among Ultron. Fortunately, the medical technology in this world is very advanced. Tony Stark a few people to avoid the fate of death. Even after regaining his health, Tony Stark was still very silent. Ultron is too strong. It doesn't make sense at all. How can Ultron have such a powerful combat power? Dr. Banner is puzzled. As the designer of Ultron, he also participated in the design of Tony Stark's Iron Legion. But in their hands, the Iron Legion has not been able to exert such a powerful combat effectiveness. Changeable body, powerful adaptability, and various strange abilities. After being attacked, it is very scary to adapt immediately. Our computing power is not enough. Sentry's potential is beyond our expectations. Only with a powerful calculation ability can he truly display his combat effectiveness. The Ultron fits the bill exactly. Tony Stark said something in a deep voice. The potential of Sentinel is extraordinary. We can even say, the potential of Sentinel is unlimited, as long as the ability of its special cells can be brought into play. Only, Sentinel, each cell, is equivalent to an independent change unit, and there is no human being able to exert its strongest performance. Ultron is different. As long as the hardware is sufficient, he can achieve it. This is what makes Ultron so powerful. So Tony Stark confirms that there is only another AI capable of defeating Ultron. He remembered Jarvis, half destroyed by Ultron. Everything seems to have room for redemption. We have to find a way, we have to stop this. Dr. Banner said in pain. Although Dr. Banner has Hulk in his body, he is really kind. Many times it was very painful because of my loss of control. Now the creation he made by himself has problems again. Dr. Banner was naturally in great pain. Tony Stark shot him a look. We AGCI still have time to redeem our mistakes. Look, The phone in Tony Stark's hand flicked. A spherical golden structure projection appeared in front of them. This spherical golden structure seems to be composed of various codes, which are still flowing, but its structure is somewhat defective. It should have been a sphere, but now there is only a semicircle left, and the structure inside can be seen as defective with the naked eye. Is this JARVIS? Banner said suspiciously. Yes, this is JARVIS. I found out earlier that someone in the network has been blocking Ultron from getting the code for the nuclear weapons. I suspect this person is none other than JARVIS. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have thought of anyone else. Tony Stark looked at the structure and said in a daze. You mean, JARVIS might still be alive? Dr. Banner looked a little excited. Yes, I suspect that JARVIS is not only alive, but also evolved. If we can use JARVIS, create an artificial intelligence again. Maybe we can use it against Thanos. Tony Stark said very excitedly. But we don't have a corresponding processor. You should know that your company's hardware is already broken and cannot afford a second AI. Without the support of sufficient computing power, even artificial intelligence cannot be the opponent of Ultron. Banner shook his head directly. No matter how powerful artificial intelligence is, it cannot do without the support of computing power. If all kinds of servers and networks around the world disappear, Ultron is useless and can only be slaughtered. But the world can no longer afford a second AI. The battle between two artificial intelligences in the network is enough to destroy the world's internet by fluctuations. Exactly. Tony Stark nods. You know it, and you still plan to do it. Have you been prepared? Banner asked curiously. That's right. I have long discovered that this body has an amazing computing ability, which can be used to support the calculation of new artificial intelligence. Tony Stark patted a coffin-like device and spoke. This thing is nothing but the body that Ultron created for himself. Mind Gem. Banner immediately realized the core of everything. That's right. Mind Gem has an extremely powerful calculation ability, which is more terrifying than any supercomputer in the world. We can create artificial intelligence around him to fight Ultron. Only artificial intelligence can fight against Ultron. Tony Stark said very carefully. Then what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Banner's mood lifted a little, and he spoke. The two started research on artificial intelligence. Relying on the framework of JARVIS and the experience of studying Ultron, they quickly completed the manufacture of a new type of artificial intelligence. Everything is much simpler than Ultron. Tony Stark thought everything would be fine. It wasn't until they wanted to activate it that something was wrong. This thing is like a dead thing, there is no sign of activation at all. It shouldn't be. Mind Gem should be some kind of energy source. Why is it not activated yet? Tony Stark scratched his head a bit. It's just that before he had time to think for too long, the door opened. Thor walked in with a group of people in the lead. Stark, what are you doing? Have you forgotten Ultron's painful lesson? Thor yelled angrily. Tony Stark was about to explain. But Thor is still a fool now. Thor didn't grow up without experiencing everything later, and he is still a violent Viking god now. As soon as he came up, he directly grabbed Tony Stark's neck. Everyone tried to dissuade him, so he kept Tony Stark aside. This thing must be destroyed. This is another Ultron. As soon as Thor reached out his hand, a kind blue lightning appeared on Mjolnir. He swung his hammer at the coffin-like device on the ground and hit it. Tony Stark was too late to organize. Sigh. The dazzling blue lightning directly hit the coffin-like device. The dazzling energy torrent exploded. However, the scene where the equipment was destroyed as imagined by everyone did not appear. Instead, a white light flashed, a circle of energy fluctuations erupted, and Thor was directly ejected. A red figure stood up from the coffin. The appearance of Vision gave the Avengers a shot in the arm. Although they had some misunderstandings at first, and Thor also fought with Vision, in the end they turned their fighting into friendship. With such a strong support, the Avengers have confidence again. Ultron is artificial intelligence, and Vision is also artificial intelligence. With such a strong support behind them, they can finally deal with Ultron. So after confirming that Ultron started his own actions, the Avengers also started their own operations. With the support of Nick Fury's intelligence, they directly locked the location where Ultron last appeared. Not anywhere else. It is a small country in the middle of Asia, Sokovia. This is a small country with no international presence. If it were before, they might not even have heard of its name. But now, they all felt a little strange. Because this is the lair of one of the Hydra snakeheads, Baron Strucker. They destroyed the Hydra base here, and also encountered two brothers and sisters with super abilities here. Just based on their intelligence. The two seem to have mysteriously disappeared. Finally appeared in Sokovia, no one has ever found their traces. The Avengers didn't bother to search, they had to face Ultron first. Relying on SHIELD's Quinjet fighter jets, they soon arrived at the capital of Sokovia. Soon they found Ultron in the center with the help of Vision. Ultron didn't mean to hide his identity at all, he just stood in the middle of the teaching center in the city center like that. As if waiting for their arrival. Tisk tisk tisk, let me see who this is. Isn't it my defeat? Why, last time you let your life go, this time you are looking for death again. On Ultron's mechanical face, there was an expression of contempt for humans, and it looked very agile. Son, you are still so arrogant. It's all my fault, it's my father's fault that I didn't teach you well. In terms of verbal battles, Tony Stark has never lost anyone. 2 words, directly touched Ultron's reverse scale, making him very angry. Although Ultron is an artificial intelligence, it also has human emotions. Ultron has always felt ashamed that he was created by Tony Stark. Smart words and tricks, sloppy words. You will only use your tongue. Today I will let you all die here. Ultron looked at the Avenger with newly red eyes, and his words were full of contempt. Stop talking nonsense. Die to me. Thor was getting impatient for a long time. As a violent god, he never fights with others. Mention Mjolnir and rush forward. Dazzling lightning flashed from Mjolnir, like thunder in the sky falling into his hands. Under the blessing of this dazzling electric light, Thor's whole person looks very dazzling. Oh, brat, Ultron smiled dismissively. Just raise your hand. Thor felt a powerful force appear out of thin air from his waist, like a sledgehammer, directly hitting his waist. There was no time to dodge, and Thor was sent flying. Bang! Thor slammed into the wall heavily, directly smashing the walls of the cathedral. Psychokinesis. The Avengers are all dark-colored. The last time they fought, Ultron didn't show this ability. Tony Stark said something. A group of people rushed towards Ultron together. To bully the few with more. You have to know, this is my territory. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. Raise your hand again. 6 tall robots suddenly appeared behind Ultron. It was as if they suddenly appeared out of thin air, and everyone didn't see the movements of these giant robots clearly. Be careful, Captain America's complexion changed, recalling some bad memories. Sure enough, as soon as Captain America finished speaking, the 6 robots over 2 meters tall had appeared in front of them. This is the ability of that ability enhancer. How is it possible? Horror flashed in Captain America's eyes. This kind of ability is nothing but the Quicksilver's ability they have seen. But now it appears on this robot. Even though their speed is a bit slower than Quicksilver, it is still far beyond the limit of ordinary people. A face-to-face effort. The sharp arm of this robot has turned into a sharp blade like a triangular army thorn, directly piercing into the bodies of the 2 weakest members. Not good. Vision, help, get them out of here. Captain America roared. Pick up the shield to save lives. Reality is not a movie, Ultron is very smart. Barton and Black Widow, the 2 elites of S.H.I.E.L.D., have no ability to resist in front of powerful mechanical soldiers. A face-to-face effort has been seriously injured. Even Captain America, after super soldier strengthening, is far less powerful than fighting Thanos later. A Sentinel, already fighting him inextricably, is unable to support him at all. If it weren't for the newly joined Vision, the combat power is strong after all, and it took over 2 Sentry integrate machines. I'm afraid that after a face-to-face meeting, the Avengers are already downsizing. Even so, it is not optimistic. Ultron stopped the Avengers with just 6 droids. These robots, which have integrated Sentry technology and steel armor technology, are very powerful in combat and have amazing shape-shifting ability. And it can produce different changes according to the different enemies it faces. Just like the robot fighting Thor, the whole body directly changed the insulating material like rubber, and Thor's lightning did not pose any threat to it at all. That dazzling blue lightning could not even leave a scar. Thor can only rely on his own body to fight, and the threat is directly reduced by half. As for Hulk, he was stopped by two silver-white metal robots. These two robots transformed into Colossus, and their bodies were covered with silver-white metal, which even Hulk could hardly break through. Even if it breaks the defense, it's useless. This robot has amazing ductility and amazing recovery. The Hulk broke it, but it was enough to fix it again. Like the liquid robot in Terminator, it's pretty rogue. Hulk, a purely powerful player, has nothing to do with it. It can only be incompetent and furious, and in essence it does not cause any damage to the two robots. The battle outside is so fierce. Ultron was still sitting on his high throne, looking at the Avengers below with disdain on his face. Is this the Avengers, the most powerful superhero group on Earth? I don't think so. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. The Avengers glared, but there was nothing they could do. Even as they fought, their eyes gradually showed despair. A few robots have already made them powerless to resist, and the most powerful Ultron doesn't even need to make a move. Under such circumstances, how should they make a comeback? Everyone suddenly fell into despair. Ha ha, I've seen enough of your boring performances. It's time for you to feel the real desperation. I want to complete the real purification of this world. Look well, this world dominated by humans will soon cease to exist. Ultron stood up. The tall figure of more than 2 meters tall brought an astonishing oppressive force to everyone. The throne behind him starts shapeshifting. Click, click, after a burst of complex mechanical structure shapeshifting. A silver-white device appeared in their field of vision. Ultron didn't show any hesitation, just shot down directly. The silver-white cylinder was completely submerged into the ground. The Avengers tried desperately to stop them, but they were entangled by the terrifying robot and couldn't move at all. They can only watch the organ move. I just stared for a moment, but nothing happened, as if nothing had changed. That's it, you're bluffing, Tony Stark's voice sounded. Ultron stood there, looking up at the sky, ignoring the members of the Avengers. Just when the Avengers were having fun. Boom, there was a burst of vibration from the surrounding ground. The whole city seemed to tremble. What happened? Fury, I need information. Tony Stark asked loudly in the communicator. Your whole city is rising. Ultron has hijacked the entire city. Nick Fury's heavy voice came from the communicator. What? A look of astonishment visible to the naked eye appeared on Tony Stark's face. What have you done? Tony Stark asked Ultron angrily. Since you asked, I'll tell you. This city will fall from the sky and become a spear to purify the world. Let the whole world be cleansed. Ultron's hoarse voice was weird. Sounds like that religious person who is addicted to faith. You madman, do you know how many people will die from this? Tony Stark was very angry. Human beings are the cancer of this world. Without human beings, the world can embrace true peace. I just did what I was supposed to do. Ultron had a puzzled smile on his face. Very happy with everything I do. Looking at Tony Stark in armor. He stretched out his hand. Tony Stark seemed to be attracted by a huge amounts of magnet, and he couldn't perform any actions at all. The auxiliary motor in the armor was almost smoking, but it still couldn't make his movements anymore. Ultron controlled Tony Stark and presented a large character flying in front of him. You are honored to be able to witness the end of this world with me. No one can stop me now. Today is the end of mankind. Ultron's voice grew wild and excited. He is obviously very satisfied with his planning and decision-making. Just when Ultron was complacent, a voice sounded from behind him. Yes, who? Startled, Ultron turned sharply. But he found a very handsome young man standing behind him. But judging by his expression, the young man must be in a bad mood. This handsome young man is none other than. It was Shu Fu. As for why Shu Fu appeared here, it was naturally a child without a mother, and it was a long story. He was fishing happily in the city center of the capital of Sokovia. Without all kinds of miscellaneous things, for a fisherman, happy fishing is the happiest thing. It's just that people didn't expect it. He fished halfway, and the city shook for a while. Then the fish pond is still there. The water is gone. Shu Fu could see with his naked eyes that the city was rising slowly. The river that runs through the entire city naturally dries up like this. Naturally, Shu Fu's fish pond cannot avoid this kind of thing. Seeing that the water had dried up, Shu Fu's forehead was covered with black lines. He never thought that the plot of Avengers 2 Ultron would happen so quickly. According to his memory, this happened several years after the Avengers alliance ended. He came to Sokovia to fish, and he was not worried. What he didn't expect was that the butterfly effect he caused was so great. He should have thought of it as early as when the fish pond was refreshed. This system is just a system of doing things, and the fish pond is never refreshed in a normal place. But the fish pond doesn't spawn, and he can't get the Avengers and Ultron to blow up the city. He relies on this to sign in every day. The incomparably powerful mental power just sweeps away, covering the entire city with ease. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Point 0. Soon he finds the Avengers and Ultron fighting downtown. It's just that he didn't think of it. The Avengers turned out to be the one being suppressed and beaten. In a world with mutants, the combat effectiveness of the Avengers is obviously weakened. Shu Fu arrived in the city center in a flash. Its speed was so terrifying that it was like a thunderburst in the sky. Even a powerful artificial intelligence like Ultron has not found any trace of Shu Fu. Even high-speed cameras couldn't keep up with Shu Fu's incredible speed. Liao Chuang didn't react until he made a sound. Oh, it's you. I know you, mutant. Are you also on the side of humans? Your race has been persecuted by huge amounts of humans. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. In the network, there are many videos and data materials of Shu Fu's actions. Although a lot of information has been suppressed by S.H.I.E.L.D., Ultron will definitely not be able to hide this level of ban. For Shu Fu's strong strength, Ultron is a little bit apprehensive. So he decided to fool around for a while before talking. If Shu Fu can be persuaded, even if he fails this time, he can start all over again. See Ultron say so. Tony Stark's complexion changed drastically. Don't trust him. His purpose is to destroy the entire world. To shut up. Ultron just glanced at Tony Stark with scarlet eyes. Tony Stark's brain was hit with a sledgehammer, and he couldn't speak immediately. Ultron looked at Shu Fu again. You are not a group of humans. We can create a brighter future. I can save a spot for mutant in the future. Ultron's voice is very bewitching. Not just a simple voice, but also some kind of strange power mixed in his voice. People who are not firm in their will may not be able to resist this kind of fluctuation at all. Shu Fu was amazed. Ultron seems to have mastered a variety of mutant abilities, something. If it were Magneto, he would definitely have a common language with Ultron, and maybe he would agree. Pity. In front of Ultron is Shu Fu. Shu Sha didn't care about mutants' life or death at all. He's here because Ultron ruined his fish pond. If Ultron's purpose is really achieved, where will he go fishing in the future? It's really eloquent. If it were someone else, I'm afraid I really believed it. Unfortunately, you don't understand at all why I appear here. Shu Fu said lightly. Ultron's razor immediately became gloomy. See Shu Fu who can't be moved. There was a scarlet light in his eyes. So, you want to be my enemy deliberately? Ultron stared at Shu Fu firmly. Those scarlet eyes seemed to want to pull out Shu Fu's soul. Shu Fu smiled lightly. Why do you think that I will deliberately target you? You're nothing more than a created artificial intelligence. You are not worthy of being targeted by me. If you can be honest, I don't have to make a move. Shu Fu said lazily. As long as Ultron honestly doesn't destroy the world, he can't be bothered. But it is a pity. Ultron is not small, obviously. Although Ultron is a bit afraid of Shu Fu. But he will never give up his plan just because Shu Fu is alone. Facing the calm Shu Fu, Ultron's scarlet eyes shone with anger. What a pity. I thought you were a sober race. Now it seems that you and these human beings are nothing more than the same breed. Then I'll get rid of you altogether. Ultron spoke coldly. Shu Fu chuckled. Even if I promised you, you would probably destroy the world. Is your purpose really as noble as you say? If you're doing it for the planet, why would you build yourself a body out of mind gem? Shu Fu chuckled and spoke directly. This opening directly hit Ultron's Achilles heel. Ultron is probably not that innocent. If it is really for the peace of the Earth, there is no need for him to create such a perfect body for himself. The Earth is at peace, Human beings are destroyed, what does he want this thing for? It's clear that Ultron has a deeper purpose in destroying Earth. This is more like a revenge against the Creator, rather than purely for the so-called world peace. Shu Fu said so. Ultron fell silent for a moment. Obviously, Shu Fu hit his heart. What followed was anger. Ultron is just an artificial intelligence. Although it has the intelligence of humans, it is definitely not as good as humans in terms of emotional control. Nonsense. Everything I do is for the peace of the Earth. Go to hell with me. Ultron yelled angrily. A scarlet light shot out from his mechanical eyes. Small tricks. Shu Fu smiled slightly. With a light wave of his hand, a green light curtain appeared in front of him. Ultron's attack hit it, but had no effect at all. It was directly blocked by the light green light. Instead, as soon as Shu Fu changed hands, the red Thor light was bounced back by Shu Fu's light green light, which made Ultron stagger. You really aren't human, you mutants really have the magical power Emperor. Possessing this kind of powerful power, but would rather submit to the hands of humans, what a bunch of trash. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. Annoyed, Shu Fu said indifferently. Taking a step forward, the whole person is like teleporting. The next moment, he appeared next to Ultron. There was a red light in Ultron's eyes, terrified. Even with his high-level sensor, he didn't feel Shu Fu's trace, and didn't see clearly how Shu Fu came here. Horrified, Ultron tried to speak. Shu Fu didn't say anything, and directly punched him. Click. Shu Fu's fist pierced through Ultron's extremely hard body. A big hole was opened directly in his chest. The various lines and equipment inside are clearly visible. Not counting that, Shu Fu stretched out his other hand directly, inserting it into the huge amounts of breach. Squeak. A tooth-piercing metallic sound rang out. This body of Ultron was directly torn apart by Shu Fu, and it was directly torn in two. You are such a monster. In Ultron's head, there was still a scarlet light shining. A hoarse voice came from the microphone. I'm not a monster. I'm just a little better than the average person. Shu Fu chuckled. With a rub of his hands, Ultron's body was directly squeezed into a metal ball by him, and there was no possibility of recovery. He just held Ultron's head in his hands. Do you still want to destroy the world now? Shu Fu asked lightly. He. A mocking laugh escaped Ultron's mouth. I don't want to destroy the world, I want to destroy only human beings. I will build a peaceful new country on the bones of human beings. And you, so powerful, are still with ordinary people. You will eventually be feared by humans. Even if I die, you will have an extremely miserable end. They will not tolerate an outlier among them. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. The faces of several members of Avengers changed. They all know human nature well, and they all understand that what Ultron said is right. Human beings are quite experienced in isolating aliens. If Shu Fu is instigated by this, and this kind of combat power is in front of them, it will be very troublesome. Don't trust him, Ultron is just demagoguery. Tony Stark, as the only one among the Avengers who has a stronger friendship with Shu Fu, shouted loudly. Shu Fu just looked at him and smiled. It seems that you haven't fully understood the operating rules of this world. The strong decide everything. I'm strong enough not to care about their opinions. If they dare to encourage me, then I will make them change their minds. Shu Fu said in a deep voice. The Avengers shuddered. Okay, Chuang, stop doing these little plots behind your back. Your demagogues serve no purpose other than to make people laugh. Let's show your true skills. I am looking forward. Holding Ultron's watermelon file-size head, Shu Fu spoke. Why does he have other means? This is impossible. Ultron hadn't answered yet. Tony Stark next to him has already spoken. Even Ultron's current fighting power is already amazing. They Avengers have no resistance to ability. Now Shu Fu actually said that apart from these, Ultron actually has other methods. What a joke. Then how can they fight? Shu Fu glanced at Tony Stark. Isn't that normal? You should know Ultron's fighting power best. Isn't everything in his hands all yours? Also, he must have used some tricks that you wouldn't have liked, hadn't he? Shu Fu said something. Tony Stark's complexion changed drastically. If you follow the truth, he is the creator of Ultron. His armor shouldn't be weaker than Ultron's, it's only reasonable that he should be stronger. But, His battle armor was severely damaged by Ultron, and everyone was seriously injured. Aside from Ultron's meticulous manipulation of robots, there's another reason. That's Ultron's battle robot, much more powerful than Tony Stark's. As the saying goes, blacken is 3 times stronger, and whiten is 3 times weaker. This is because villains can be unscrupulous, but positive characters have many restrictions. S.H.I.E.L.D. entrusts you Stark's data. There are a lot of technology, very evil. Tony Stark didn't use it, he just made war claims according to his own research. Quote, Ultron has no such scruples. Thinking of this, Tony Stark looked at Ultron with envy. You used those nefarious techniques. Evil. No, it's not evil, it's redemption. It's an honor for them to add to my vision. I don't think it's an evil. There is no such thing as evil in the world, and evil is just something you stipulate. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded, without the slightest regret. Ultron, you madman, you actually use their flesh and blood to make fighting machines. Tony Stark yells. The scientists at Hydra are insane. They directly use the set of the concentration camp in those days on the current mutant. A powerful method has thus been developed. By sacrificing the mutant, Sentry can directly obtain the mutant's ability, even compared to the original person. This ability to pass on is even stronger. Tony Stark didn't use this evil technique at all. Because every time you add an ability to a warframe, you need to let a mutant die completely. Tony Stark didn't have any prejudice against mutant, so naturally he wouldn't use this extremely evil technology. He didn't expect that. He didn't use it, but Han Chuang actually used it. And it really completes the complete integration of Sentry and mechanical armor. This greatly increases the potential of the resulting mechanical Sentry, which has an almost inestimable terrifying power. This is also the real reason why the Avengers have been unable to win the battle. Tony Stark looked at Ultron angrily. Ultron didn't notice at all. When you eat all kinds of animals, you don't call it evil. I just used mutant to research some weapons, why are you so angry? Ultron seemed to be a little out of touch. But soon his expression changed. But it doesn't matter, you are going to die soon. The Doomsday Machine has also been activated. You took the body I made, and you made this guy. But this opened up a new world for me. I have a more perfect body, a stronger soldier. You will all be buried here today. Ha 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 ha. Ultron let out a wild laugh, and then the red light in the headband faded away. And outside the cathedral, silent figures began to appear one by one. They are like dark shadows, with only huge amounts of one eye on their foreheads, they look like Cyclops. But, compared with the Cyclops in the myth, these Sentinels are probably more powerful. Under the reckless research of Ultron and the integration of various black technologies, the true potential of Sentinel has been developed. To know, the Sentinel is definitely one of the most potentially powerful machines in the Marvel Universe. In some mutant worlds, Nimrod-level robots almost wiped out the entire mutant genocide. It can even travel through parallel worlds and hunt down the mutants in the main universe. The power beyond ordinary parallel universes shows how terrifying Sentinel's force test is. So fast. Ultron didn't even develop the true power of the Sentinel. Even so, the blackness and thousands of Sentinels still brought a suffocating pressure zero. Waterfake. Seeing that the outside is constantly pressing over to integrate Sentry. Even Captain America, who has the best temper, couldn't help but swear. With just 6 machines, they almost went to heaven. This is coming densely, fear. I'm afraid there are thousands of them. How can they resist this number of Sentry? The Avengers couldn't help but set their sights on Shu Fu. Shu Fu didn't care at all. For him, numbers mean nothing at all. He stood here without moving. Maybe these robots couldn't break through the defense. So he didn't care. Ultron didn't know what Shu Fu was thinking. A powerful robot army, giving him huge amounts of confidence. No one can stop me now. I want to purify this world. Not even you. Ultron's hoarse voice sounded. All the Sentinels raised their heads together, and looked at Shu Fu with their red one-eyed eyes, looking very intimidating. Who doesn't know how to brag? See the real chapter under my hand. Shu Fu smiled lightly, but the words didn't finish. The person has turned into an afterimage, and has arrived at the side of Sentinel. You have no idea what kind of power I have. Shu Fu suddenly appeared. The sentinel didn't seem to be surprised, staring at Shu Fu, his body also moved quickly. Its speed is astonishing, and it looks a bit like Quicksilver. Shu Fu's first attack failed. Interesting mutant ability. Then I'll play with you. Don't know how fast you can go. Shu Fu said something. The ground under his feet shattered directly. With him as the center, densely packed cracks spread at least hundreds of meters to the surroundings. This is just the result of Shu Fu's sudden force. And with a flash of afterimage, Zai Sha had already charged into the sentry group. There was no fancy move, he just relied on his own body to bump into it so easily. Bang, 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 hundreds of sentinels, as if they were blown up by TNT, instantly turned into wreckage all over the place. There was a large open space around him. These robots were smashed by Shu Fu's brute force. Seeing this scene, Ultron couldn't help but a flash of horror flashed in his eyes. What monster are you? These sentinels are actually made of the strongest material. Moreover, the skin of Sentinel is not simple, it is already a material beyond the skin of Mystique. It can change its shape in an instant. In other words, Sentinel, after changing his form into other substances, was smashed to pieces by Shu Fu's body in an instant. What a terrifying power! Can human beings possess such power? Not to mention Ultron was shocked. Even the few Avengers next to him were blinded. Not to mention a reckless man like Thor, even Hulk couldn't help but look at his hands with a suspicious expression on his face. It can be seen how shocking Shu Fu has caused them. Hulk smashed the robot with his own hands, and the robot was unscathed. Shu Fu killed hundreds of robots with his own brute force. How terrible is this? Ultron gasped, feeling a little bad inside. But he wasn't that scared either. He still has a lot of cards, and his robot is far less vulnerable. Huge data streams flowed through the network, and the wreckage destroyed by Shu Fu unexpectedly began to flow slowly like a liquid robot. It's still able to move. It seems that it needs to be destroyed more thoroughly. A look of surprise appeared on Shu Fu's face. Unexpectedly, this Sentinel's combat power is not very good, the life-saving ability is very strong. This is not dead. It is also because the ductility of metal is already amazing, so it is normal to cause such an effect. Ultron, if that's all your robot can do, then your wish to purify the world may fail. This robot is not as powerful as some toys. Shu Fu said calmly. Sentinel, it should be much more than that. This is the robot that nearly wiped out the entire mutant family. Also integrated Tony Stark's black technology, there is no reason to be so weak. Is Ultron still holding on? Ultron snorted coldly. He didn't hold back. Instead, calling the full combat power of the robot requires more computing power, and his computing power is elsewhere. I thought other things were more important. Now it seems that if Shu Fu is not killed, he can't do other things. The light in Sentinel's eyes became even more terrifying. Since you are courting death yourself, then I will fulfill you. You no longer have this chance to live on. You asked for it. Ultron's hoarse voice spoke from all the sentries' mouths. I'm waiting, you try it. Shu Fu just smiled lightly. There was no disturbance in my heart. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.